Live.
Yes.
Welcome everyone to this, and normally I say regular council meeting of April 7th, but today I'm gonna say council meeting of April 7th with irregularities. We have Councillor Hambrook and Councillor Dale attending virtually, the remainder of council sitting around the table. We have the senior leadership team here or else online. I think Miss Brown is online.
Correct.
And I believe a live audio video feed is being broadcast and recorded via Zoom and is available on the Town of Golden YouTube page. So with that, I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement that for thousands of years, the abundance that the earth's lands and waters provide us to live, work, and play is due to the ecological wisdom, stewardship, and the reciprocal relationship as well as First Peoples have lived and live today. Begin by acknowledging the land in which we gather is the shared ancestral territory of the Tanam and Secwepemc people. Gold is also home to the Métis Nation from the Riverside and other diverse Indigenous heritage. We're grateful to have the opportunity to live and work in this territory. Ms. Ville, I see we have one late item under item 2.
That is correct. I hope everyone can hear me. Apologies for the technical difficulties. We're doing our best with what we have. There's one late item and it does require a 2/3 majority because it just arrived to council today.
Thank you for that. Councilor, some direction. Moving, Councilor Will.
Yeah, I move that we move forward.
And that would go under new business, item 12, and we've got a mover and second, and Councilor Lovely. Any discussion on the item, council? Seeing, hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. So, like I said, that'll end up under 12 under new business. So we have the adoption of the meeting agenda as amended. Those will move with that. Councilor Lovely, second by Councilor Manuel. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
I turned it off because I think it might be echoing.
What's your preference, on or off?
Off, I think. We don't know.
Okay, so with that, we'll move on to item 4, which is the adoption of the minutes of the regular open council meeting that was held March 17th. Looking for mover and second of that, moved by Councilor Rotley, second by Councilor Manuel. Council, is there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Everybody looks over to this side of the table. With that, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And council, is there any business arising from those minutes that we will not be dealing with on tonight's agenda? Seeing here none, we'll move on. We have no delegations presentations. We're gonna move on to correspondence. Looking for a motion that the items of external correspondence be received. Moved by Councilor Rutledge, second by Councilor Guido. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. So we have 2 items that are action items. The first one is from Duncan Malkinson from the village of Pooskoo. And drawing our attention to resolutions that the village intends to submit to the association and subsequently to UBCM. And there, I believe there was 3 resolutions there. One was with regards to Government of Canada affirm and uphold the security of fee simple title and the private property rights of landowners in BC. The second one was related to establish the province, this BC establishing a transparency framework for Indigenous title in related to negotiations. And yeah, those are the 2 reports, yes. And the other item for action that we have on the agenda is a communication from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. And they're writing to us expressing their concern regarding the impacts of budget 2026 tax changes. And they're respectfully urging council to directly raise its concerns with the provincial government regarding the cost budget 2026 PST expansion will have on local government's operating costs and public safety. Also publicly disclose any cost pressures downloaded onto council by the PST expansion and any related costs or tax increases that may follow subsequent to that. Those are the two correspondence that we have to listen for some action from council. Is there a desire of council to take any action on one of these items? That's the second time. That's the third time. With that, we will move on to informational items, correspondence. And under that, under the correspondence of an informational nature, we received 4 letters from individuals letting us know their thoughts on what Golden should be doing given the recent time change direction from the province. A thank you from the Golden Order Ski Club for the donation to the Huckleberry office. An invitation to the National 2 LGBTQIA plus Politicians Forum at the end of July in Winnipeg. Excuse me, an update from the town of View Royal on the provincial housing legislation. A note from Okanagan Aggregates informing us that from April 15th to May 15th, there is construction on the Trans-Canada Highway 9 kilometers east of Golden. We also received a letter from the Golden Rockets Society informing that they, along with their 7 partners, will be the founding members of a newly formed league, the Western International Hockey League, and that they will operate independently of Hockey Canada as of June 1st. Excuse me, I will add, the Golden Rockets apologize for not being present at a meeting due to the minor hockey awards happening tonight. They wanted us to be aware that the most important thing for us to know is that this decision to transition to the new league was made so that they could keep junior hockey in Golden, and they expect no change in the good relationship of the town of Golden CSD and with our community. So those are the informational items. With that, we will go on to many pieces of paper. Item 7D, which is internal correspondence, and the motion that the items of internal correspondence received, moved by Councillor Wheel, second by Councillor Manuel. And the first item is item from Ms. Seville. Seville.
Thank you, Mayor Zust. So the 2026 Ready Grant cycle has come to an end. This year we had 20 applicants with an average ask of approximately $17,000. This year we were in a unique position. 2 of the 2025 projects returned unused funds, providing the program with an additional $83,000 in unspent carry forward funds for 2026. After 1 application was withdrawn this year and 3 projects were denied, we will carry forward just over $78,000 into the 2027 grant cycle, which will kick off in January of 2027. Attached to the memo is the results of the committee's decision. So it lists all of the projects and, oh, interesting. Sorry, a notice just came up on the screen. So yeah, all of the project applicants are listed, as well as which projects were approved and which ones were denied.
Thank you. Any questions from Ms. Seville? Information item. And when a applicant is denied, they're provided with a written or verbal statement as to why there was a denial. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're provided with a written rationale on behalf of the committee as to why their application was denied for that year.
Thank you very much. Anything, council? If not, we will move on to 7E, which is outgoing correspondence. The motion that the items of outgoing correspondence be acknowledged. Councilor Rowley, second by Councilor Wheel. There's all those in favor. Let's miss that one. Opposed? Carried unanimously. So the first one is from my signature to the as per the direction from at the previous council meeting, send a letter requesting the authorizing physiotherapists to order diagnostic imaging in British Columbia. And the second one was a letter of support for the Heritage BC Grant Review Panel for the Golden Pride Society and Golden Pride Fest. Those two went out as directed by council. We're moving along here, we'll move on to council reports, and we slow down the shift down gears a little bit. So any council reports about activities that council has been involved in the last couple weeks with your councilor hat on? Councilor Jill?
So I just wanted to bring attention to a letter that we received from FCM with regards to the resolution that we put forward for the affordability of goods. It was they moved it to category A concurrence, so it won't be debated. It's been moved to the highest level and will directly be policy that they'll hold on to for the next, I believe, 4 years. It's quite of a feather in our hat for Golden, because for a small community to have a motion to move into that where we don't have to go debate. And it was important. It was an easy take, I think, because everybody can agree that affordability of goods is a problem, but it's definitely something we should all be proud of putting forward. So I just want to let you know that. And then I also was got to attend the photo session with the students from the Cole Confluence, which was a nice day. And why that's all I have to report. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for council? You want any other council reports? Council Road, youth patrol.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. I will brief, yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity to see the strength of the Francophone community and celebrate the end of Francophone month. See, for Confluence. Just a brief update on AKBLG resolutions, which are that the 32 resolutions in total have been received throughout the Cuban boundary region. Town of Golden accounting for 2 of those. The mosquito control, drug use for mosquito control resolution has received no recommendations by virtue of there not being any formal policy around it. So that will be an open piece for debate. Of course. And the second, the resolution regarding the tourist accommodation assessment relief has received endorsement by the resolutions committee and will be part of an endorsed block for regional resolutions. 32 resolutions in total, about half of which are established in policy via DBCM, notwithstanding the fact that DBCM may refuse to accept them because they are endorsed policy. The AKBLG resolutions committee is moving for endorsement for any established policy, so as to inform and reinforce the advocacy efforts of DLG within the province. Seeing success last month, so lots of great work to be done in Trail and this week, and debated around either of Golden's resolutions and certainly the rest of Union Counties.
Anything else there? Oh, thank you for that. Any questions? Councilor Rowley? We're going to Council Manuel.
I'll repeat that I was also, as were most of us, in the taking pictures with the children from the Francophone school. It was wonderful. The kids were great, and it's also good to see them the increasing diversity in that community. I think it's a positive thing. Moving on, with climate caucus, we had, a working group on disinformation. We met last week and, we were engaging in a group session with Dr. Chris Pennell, Assistant Director at the Center for the Study of Democratic Institutions at the UBC, and he was essentially mining us for information that he could use in his work, so to make it progress further, which we're happy to provide. And lastly, at the age-friendly meeting, it was interesting, we had the community connector there, and she was using this again for information. What kind of different emergencies might exist, or where someone may need assistance, and then where could they possibly get it? She's looking to get that information so she can make sure she has all the contact information she needs to serve people who are in need. So it was interesting, and it was, I think, well, worthwhile.
Thank you for that, Councilor Manuel. Any questions, Councilor Manuel? If not, we'll move on to the next council report. Seeing no hands go up, I will start into mine. I attended the Legion annual general meeting. It was an interesting meeting. They are focused on setting direction and budgets to help them grow their business so that they can continue to give back to the community. This Legion has struggled over the last few years, but Richard's changing location and access issues, but they have a strategy moving forward and are investing into the future of not only themselves, but the community. I attended the Columbia Basin Trust Board meeting, and the board highlights will be out in short order for your reading information on that one. I met with Scott Forchi, Chad, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name, and electrical area director. The two first folks were from the College of the Rockies, and they were talking about the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding between the College of the Rockies and the Outdoor Recreation Council of BC, looking to explore ways to strengthen the outdoor rec sector and how well positioned our local campus is in this growth with the ATDO program that we've had for the last probably 15 years. With some of you, I also attended the photo op with the Franklin School at Spirit Square. I had two meetings with the Columbia River Treaty Local Government Committee. One of them dealing with the treaty directly, and one dealing with the agreement in principle and the flood risk operations plan, and some discussion about BC Hydro and BC Hydro's communications processes. With some feeling that there's a lack of communication processes. I'll just leave it at that. Attended the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Committee of the whole meeting. We had a presentation from Shuswap Ride Share Program. They provided an update. Last year, they provided 623 rides, covering 55,000 kilometers, and all of this with volunteers, 2 electric vehicles, and they I hope to share this information with our local age-friendly committee, because transportation is a key issue for that group. Received the draft at the committee of the whole meeting. We also received the final draft of the solid waste management plan review, and staff provided an update. Board also received information from the Fraser Basin Council projects, one of them being the Columbia River floodplain mapping, which provides updated flood hazard information. Met with MP Arnold and local forest industry stakeholders to talk about the future of the forest industry in the province and the PFAC. Provincial Forestry Advisory Committee report that just recently came out, and some funding streams that might be available for our community, and the Keeping Horse Country Chamber of Commerce is preparing a submission for that. Also met with MP Arnold and MLA McInnes. That's a fine. MP Arnold and MLA McInnes and the hospitality industry representatives talk about the challenges the industry is having with a lack of staff, the temporary foreign worker program, and the local survey that, again, the KHCCC, Keeping Horse Country Chamber of Commerce, is doing, and the need for a regional employment strategy. Going back a little bit since the last council meeting, and also attended the CSB board meeting. And from there, we brought what was brought forward the final outcomes of the board approving the 2026 and 2030 5-year financial plan. We have the one-page sheets that folks usually see with the allocations for both electoral area A and town of Golden. Also of interest would be that item 11.1 on the agenda, which covers the town of Golden agreement for the operations of the arena for the next 5 years. Under grants and aid, the board supported the following grants in aid for electoral area A: $2,000 to Living Lakes Canada Society for a water resource inventory, and $2,000 for the Golden Light Horse Club for the ski joring event. At that meeting, the board also approved $40,000 from the EOF to complete the LiDAR, light detection and ranging survey from mosquito control in Golden area. This came forward to the CSB as a result of the town Golden Council's concurrence through our resolution. The board also approved the amendment of the, interesting, we just passed the 2026-2030 financial plan, and they also passed an amendment to the 2026-2030 financial plan for the purchase of a Type 3 wildland vehicle for the Nixon Fire Hall, funded by $500,000 from the Area Community Works Fund and $139,000 and change from the deployment reserve. And I bring this up because this will be, we have a mutual aid with Nicholson Fire Department. This will be a great vehicle to have access through that mutual aid agreement. The board also empowered staff to dispose of the Golden District Centennial Arena and Curling Rink refrigeration plant actuators, condensers as per policy A24 to disposal of assets. Try to get a little suspense in there. In 2025, community services staff undertook planned replacement of the arena refrigeration plant condenser, and this unit also supplies refrigerations to the Golden Curling Rink. So my apologies for the number of items. If there are details that anybody wants on any one of those items or all of the items, do not hesitate to send me a note and I can forward you the information. With that, any questions tonight about any of these items? Perfect, thank you. Okay, with that, we will move on. On the computer cooperates. Reports to committees. And we have a report from the 988 at from the Stanton County Finance that was held March 17th. The resolution there before you, it's up on the screen. If anybody wants to read it, I will be up and go right ahead. The information there, I'll give you a second or two to read it. And the intent is to do this all in one resolution. Is that correct?
Correct.
So with that, I'm looking for a counselor to move the resolution. Counselor Utley, second Counselor Manuel. Any discussion on the item, Counselor Utley?
Thanks, Mayor. Just, specifically to that last, the last 2 points around the tax revenue budget and the tax rate scenarios, certainly encouraging the viewing public and members of the public to go ahead and review the Standing Committee on Finance meeting recording if they want greater clarity, but also to feel free to really engage with the process. It's not quite the responsible pet ownership bylaw, but I think I might be so bold that it has greater consequence than off-leash loans. So I really, the folks reach out. Understanding is always that 10% tax revenue budget doesn't equal 10% tax increase, but that certainly this is a process of breaking the cycle of foisting future costs on or current costs really on future generations, and breaking that cycle moving forward so that we can maybe achieve full financial sustainability in that 4 or 5 year horizon. Thank you.
Thank you. Great comments and absolutely objective being sustainable service delivery. Oh, sorry, go. No. Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We move on to reports from staff. And we have the CAO verbal update. Thank you, Danagar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So going section by section, starting with myself, because I'm here, held the first bi-monthly meeting with the Executive Director of Tourism Golden to help keep our organization's efforts aligned more tightly. So we're trying it out as bi-monthly. Also, as will be noted in the strategic plan update, Tourism Golden has authorized staff liaison to their board meetings on a periodic basis to try it out. Again, to try to make sure that we align our efforts and aren't finding out the day of that they were doing something the same we were doing and vice versa. Business owners will also notice a new information insert in this year's business license renewals that were sent out. This insert was done in partnership with Tourism Golden and the Chamber of Commerce, so it's one side each. This is to help strengthen our business community. And fostering the economic well-being of our community is one of the core purposes of a municipal government, as written right into the community charter. So this is just an example of trying to take a small step to help that. Myself also attended a session on due diligence from a legal perspective in the context of occupational health and safety. It was a very dense hour. Fortunately, the whole thing was recorded and there's a PowerPoint to go with it. So I'll be reviewing it again in a week, see how much I remembered. But really important stuff, a lot of misunderstandings around due diligence and how it works. Here in Town Hall, I initiated some office moves to improve individual workspaces and to improve team dynamics. So if any member of the public or council is wandering and trying to find somebody, do ask around. Some of us have shuffled. Also, I'm closely following the Regional District of East Kootenay's decision-making regarding their time zone / time change, time observance, in anticipation of potential coordinated public engagement if a reconsideration occurs at the board meeting on April 10th. So pending how that goes, staff will then bring a report to council on what we might do here locally or in collaboration with them and our own regional district. For corporate services and communications, the budget book and public input process will launch tomorrow, April 8th. Residents are invited to provide their input from April 8th through to the closing of the online survey on April 21st. Could also send feedback by email or by attending the April 21st regular open council meeting. To find out more, check out our website, golden.ca/budget. That'll be updated tomorrow. Staff have started work on preliminary election planning, which will be the focus for many, many months. Thankfully, with some help this year. The bylaw officer will be attending the Local Government Compliance and Enforcement Association Conference. Yes, it's as exciting as it sounds. That's next week in Nanaimo. The conference has a quite relevant itinerary covering topics from short-term rentals to animal control and safety. Finance and admin, busy as always working on audit and budget this time of year. Will be later on in this meeting. Planning and development. Work continues on the OCP, the Official Community Plan. The second round of engagement will occur April 20th and 21st, with the specifics of the schedule to be shared later this week. Business license renewals, as I mentioned earlier, have been mailed out and they are due by the end of April. Thank you to all who do that. Protective Services and Fire. The Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, was activated at level 1 last Thursday. There was a news item added to our website for those who were curious at the time or heard about it. So it was activated to support a response to a diesel fuel spill at 1050 Highway 1 Frontage Road. Many thanks to all the staff who responded very quickly and professionally to that, from the EOC staff themselves to Public Works. The fire department was on scene, and to our communications team. That's just Alicia here to my left, for making sure that everything was coordinated. Good practice. Hopefully nothing more serious happens in the summer, but little things like this are a great way to try out the mechanisms. In public works, street cleaning's ongoing on a daily basis. I've noticed it myself. It's so clean I could almost eat my lunch off those roads right now. So it was daily, Monday to Friday, as temperatures were above freezing, and we'll continue till it's all done. I also want to thank Public Works Department for not jumping on that too soon, as I think we all noticed there was some chatter about why we weren't doing it earlier, and then sure enough, winter came again. So this is why Public Works will sometimes delay. They're weather meteorological masters in a way, so always appreciate the public's patience until they're sure that it's the right time to clean up. Senior center re-roofing work was delayed due to weather, but it's resuming this week. We were successful in getting a $10,000 tree planting grant from BC Hydro, their re-greening program. So that's being planned out for this later this year. And other great news for Public Works is that Golden's getting its first jet rotting / vacuum truck. I'll let our Director of Public Works explain that further if anybody's curious. But it's a giant vacuum cleaner on wheels.
Maybe an oversight.
Helen, I'm not in Public Works. I have seen them brought into other municipalities where I've worked at, and they have a tremendous impact on workload for the staff and the ability to respond really quickly to challenging situations. So after some staff training was completed on delivery, I'm hoping that the crew there will start enjoying that piece of equipment. Over at Rec, ice pad operations at the arena have officially wrapped up for the season, and the operations team has been busy removing the ice. I'm curious, do they make slushies out of it? No, don't put it on that. Good side business. Recruitment to the swimming pool operations continues. There are 21 part-time casual hiring packages that have been sent out. Majority of hires are high school students, so the department is still working hard on recruiting staff with daytime availability for May and June. Please help us get the word out. And participation at the Recplex drop-in programs remains solid. And a little external update, not normally something I do, but I know we're all seeing that bridge slowly being built. So an update from Ministry of Transportation today is that the approach girders that were damaged in the derailment are undergoing repair in Red Deer, and they anticipate to have them back on site and being placed in mid-May. Formwork for concrete placement will commence after the approach girders are in place. And the contractor is working on a revised construction schedule. So when that's ready, and at any time, you can check out their website, gov.bc.ca/Highway 95 Golden Bridges, because technically there's two of them. So you can check out that website. It was last updated February 23rd, but there should be an update coming again soon because we keep prodding them. And that's my update for today.
Thank you, Mr. Dinnergarten. Council, any questions for Mr. Dinnergarten? Councilor Emmanuel?
With regard to the time change and, do we have any sense of how we're gonna be looking at this as a group with the, other communities up and down the, Columbia, Valley, or?
It really depends on what the Arctic board decides to do, like if it is even reconsidered, we don't know. It's been talked up that it might be reconsidered, but that might get shot down, in which case they're gonna do their thing and we will proceed with our own, and that's what staff would advise in an upcoming report.
They do a follow-up?
Please.
Yeah, the reason I was asking is I've done a bit of research myself, because it's a very big thing actually, and found some disquieting information about the health issues around permanent or daylight savings on a regular basis. So yeah, I'm a bit concerned.
Yeah, that would be included in the staff report as like a note of consideration. And preempt that report a little bit and say that that health impact is expected to be much less on this side of the province because of the geography of it, right? It's the folks in Victoria and Vancouver would actually be affected more negatively by it. But that would come forward in the staff report, talking about the things to be considered by the public and council.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Step report. Any other questions for Mr. Dinnergarten? Actually, a couple here, with regards to the diesel, so I did get a a text message from a CP Rail from Michael Vecchio, and they were, I guess they understand, they worked with the fire department on that. They were helping the fire department with a clean up of fuel spill at the location. The fire department requested the assistance yesterday, and the CP Rail map and environment staff were happy to accommodate. And the other comment is, he thought it was terrific that they can provide some mutual aid when needed, and he stated on behalf of CPKC, thank you for the cooperation and for the trust. So I share that with council from CPKC. The other comment I had was a little on the side, tongue in cheek. Thank you, Mr. Cochran, for being able to manage the weather so well. You have another career that's ongoing, I guess. Any other questions for Mr. Denigar? Seeing none, we'll move on to 10AB, which is an update on the strategic plan of Q1 progress report. Just gonna pull that up here. And that's Mr. Denigar again, please say it with fire.
You betcha. So this is the first quarterly progress update that I spoke about when we were doing the refresh of council's strategic plan. Is that habit I got into years ago, and it is sort of the best practice in local government to, at least on a quarterly basis, is sort of the typical, much like is in the business world. To now, it's no good having a strategy if you only look at it when you refresh it every 4 years or something like that. So to help keep council and the public aware of where we're at with all the objectives to eventually achieve the goals, maybe providing every 3 months an update of where we're at and if there's any achievements to celebrate or delays but are still in progress, just so you know what's going on, or if something's full on been halted for usually outside reasons. If there's an external factor, a dependency that we're relying upon and that's fallen through or been delayed, then that may delay our strategic objectives. So that'll be reported quarterly on a regular cadence like that. So you know what's going on. If there's anything super urgent, that would of course be communicated with you through my CAO updates or even an email if it's like really urgent. But this is just sort of that you always know every 3 months, you can kind of look at where we're at. And we're going with a no news is good news approach to manage staff workload and not give you too much to read. So if you can zoom in on your little screens there, I know it's a lot. But on the far right side is the status updates submitted by staff and reviewed by myself. So where it's blank, it means there's nothing exciting to report, or it's all on progress, or it hasn't started yet. But you're absolutely welcome to ask questions at this point in the agenda about any of these items. Even if there's no comments on it, you can ask just how it's going or what the plan is. Staff are ready and able to answer whatever you like.
Thank you for that. We have a resolution and some options, but before we get into that, is there any questions of Mr. Denigar with regards to any of the items on the list? Sounds like there's great information there and council will be able to digest it and see things moving forward. So with that, we have a resolution recommendation going from mover Councilor Rowley.
I think we're happy to move the recommendation that council received as presented.
Seconder, Councilor Manuel. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. So now we move on to 10AC, which is the operating budget amendments, and Mr. Denigar, we have a staff report from you. Okay.
Yes, we do. So following all that hard work preparing the budget, I then went to my CFO and said I'd like to change it at the 11th hour. I managed to make it out of her office alive and wrote this report. So a couple of things I'm asking council to consider is contracted HR services. This is to help fill a gap in our documentation and processes internally. I know it was considered a year or so ago by council of actually getting full-time permanent HR support. Decision was made to defer that and work on internal processes and supports. And it's become clear that we need to actually just get some foundational work done so that all the senior staff have the tools and the standards and the consistency in the approach to HR matters. So this would be a consultant to do, as described there in the discussion section of the report, to do a laundry list of review and creation of documents, how-tos, processes. Because I would say that every department kind of has their own way of doing it or not ways of doing it, and that's definitely not the best approach. So we want to take a coordinated attack on this and get everybody what they need. And then the other request is for new furniture and file storage to facilitate the office reorganizations that I mentioned earlier in my CAO report. Because of some staff changes, we had the opportunity of a couple empty offices. So we took that opportunity to consolidate departments, put staff in more appropriate offices. One staff member was working in a file closet. Now they have an office. So to finalize that change, some furniture would be needed. Some of the furniture that was in use, I was glad we don't have a lot of earthquakes here. If there's any questions about that, happy to answer.
I'll just have some fun first. I'm glad you got out of the filing, what was it called, the closet. Your office moved out of the filing closet.
Oh, it wasn't myself, it was another member. So, yes.
Sounds good.
Oh, I don't do that anymore. Yeah, I do have a question because I believe it was a COVID start program that the previous CEO had, I think, quite a big budget for furniture and such. Did that get all used up, or I think it was like $36,000 or something like that? If I remember correctly.
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I imagine it probably did, seeing how much new furniture and dividers and so forth have been put in place upstairs.
Okay.
Office quality professional furniture does tend to be more expensive than off-the-shelf home furnitures. So
I see Miss Brown has her hand up. Miss Brown, do you have some supplemental information?
oh, great.
There we go.
Just wanted to add some information on behalf of the finance department. The budget for the town hall furnitures and fixtures was mainly for the financial and corporate services departments, and that budget has been completed. I don't believe there's any remaining, so this would be in addition to.
Any follow-up, Councilor Quill? Thank you that, Miss Brown. Any follow-up, Councilor Quill? Thank you that, Miss Brown. Councilor Hamburg, I think your mic is on, and next up for questions is Councilor Manuel.
I'm not, this is something I'm a bit uncertain about, but I've taken a look at things, HR that, resources and training and this kind of thing, but I can't help but wonder, whenever we have a, important or trained person within the organization we have to replace, it's very difficult and be very challenging and sometimes take a long time. Does HR also cover the subject of retention? How do we keep people we value and they're very hard to replace?
That's a good question. And yes, absolutely. Part of these processes, especially the setting the plan for the year, reviewing the performance, reviewing where the gaps are in maybe training, knowledge, hands-on. Those processes support retention because the staff are able to perform at their best and feel their best about how they're performing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councilor Cooper?
Yeah, I saw we were putting money into reserves, and I thought one of them was for building and capital and office furniture kind of reserve. So is the 6,000 you're asking for coming out of the reserve, or is it coming out of a budget for the office?
Looking to Mr. Deniger or Miss Brown, are you able to respond?
Myself, I'm not sure where this magical money is coming from. I do believe Carolyn may have an answer for that. Coming from? I do believe Carolyn may have an answer for that.
Miss Brown?
Why is it doing
Thank you. Although it does, I believe in the report state that it's coming from general surplus, it is possible to bring it from the equipment reserve as well. There are funds there. However, it's such a nominal amount, either source of funding would be fine.
So basically, the preference of staff or the preference of council as to where money came from?
So basically, the preference of staff.
I think it's just we're not using our normal system, so there's a feedback when someone's unmuted online.
Okay. Let's carry on and see what any other questions? I guess my comments would be, it's great to see the foundational work getting into place, because you need to start that solid foundation across the board, so we have consistency, we have capacity. That's extremely valuable. In reading the report, saw that some of the furniture that was being used by staff was maybe questionable, not unsafe by no means, but questionable. So it's great to see that being addressed. To that end, I would move the recommendation with the second, Councillor Routley seconding that. Any further questions? Seeing there none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Next, we have 10A-D, which is a transfer of piano fund ownership from the town of Golding to the Kicking Horse Culture. Just gonna pull that up. And Mr. Denegard, that's also your staff report, sir.
Yes, thank you. The body of the report, as you can tell, is actually from their letter, which is attached to the report. So this was a request from Golden District Community Foundation and Kicking Horse Culture, who are part of a three-party agreement with the town. So there was an agreement to hold some funds to help take care of the piano at the Kicking Horse Center. It's created a lot of probably unnecessary staff workload and communication and coordination to try to keep all these three parties and us basically as a middleman to flow the funds through. So to simplify that, reduce work for everyone, all three parties involved, the request is from those two other parties and supported by town staff that we as a town step out of this agreement and let those two organizations have a direct agreement between themselves. There's a lot of trust there. There's a good working relationship there. There's no real need for the town to be involved in it. It's just creating unnecessary work. It would also, in their new agreement that they're proposing, which was attached as well, even though we wouldn't be a party of it, that it would free up any extra revenue they gain from their investment, the seed investment from that fund for the piano. That would be able to go towards other things that King Horse Culture may want to do that align with that agreement. So it's a positive all around, a win-win-win.
Thank you for that. Any comments, questions before we get resolution? Councillor?
I do have a question with regards to the anonymous donor. Have they been advised that this is happening? I just find it odd that I thought it was a gift to the town. So I don't know, like, how have they been advised?
So
Because I think it was Glenn Ewing that kind of brokered the deal in the first place.
So when this first came to me quite a while ago, I do believe it was confirmed that they were aware.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if Councillor Rutley had some involvement as well.
Comments, Councillor Routley?
I think you had to prevent some supplemental, yeah, this came out of active discussions with the donor, and so staff at the community foundation those changes and in ensuring that the maintenance costs were still covered, but then anything excess was brought forward to the greater benefit of cultural services. So certainly led you know, the effort was largely led by the donor and their agreement and rates to change, so.
Thank you, Councilor. And that was a question I had with regards to some conferring with donors. Donor actually initiated to some degree. Great here. So with that, looking for a resolution. Councilor Riley.
I'd be happy to move the recommendation that we approve the transfer vote.
Okay, thank you, Alan, the seconder, Councilor Manuel. Any further questions, comments? If not, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Now we move on to corporate services and communications department. Just gonna do a couple quicks here, get ready to speak. Right, so, Ms. Ville, you have I pulled up the wrong one, so I'll let you speak to that while I get my ducks in a row here.
Thank you, Mayor Zeus. So this is a staff report for the appointment of the chief and deputy chief election officers. So as you all likely know, the 2026 general local election will be held on October 17th, 2026. For the purposes of conducting an election, a local government That's a good sign. A local government must appoint a chief election officer and a deputy chief election officer as per Section 58 of the Local Government Act. For the 2026 municipal election, staff are engaging a qualified contractor, Dawn Atorp, who's online with us today, to fulfill the role of chief election officer, with the director and manager positions within corporate services, both serving as deputies. The shift to a contracted chief election officer is consistent with practices in local governments experiencing capacity constraints or high priority concurrent projects. Dawn has been involved in various elections throughout her years. In each of these roles, Dawn has been very much engaged with the associated local government staff, valuing and respecting their local knowledge regarding the many facets of conducting an election. Together, the proposed election officers bring a wealth of combined experience administering elections. And so we have a recommendation for council to appoint those positions.
Thank you, Ms. Ville. Council, any questions or clarification needed prior to getting the resolution on the floor? Seeing none, Council Ville?
I just was curious if the election officer that you want to be contracting would be having to do with anything with about pre-election candidate training.
That was
Like, what's
the scope.
Breadth of the
yeah.
responsibilities.
So that was not part of the contracted agreement. It is just to serve as the chief election officer, and which would allow staff to actually work on the pre-candidate training.
So the other question is, will they be here during the whole election? People picking up their packages to deliver them. I just don't understand, like.
Those are again, to roles, responsibilities and presence.
Yeah, so Dawn is located in Invermere, and so she will have some visits to Golden, but the purpose of the deputy chief election officers is that we are able to accept nomination packages, we can answer questions, we can be available as well, and so it's definitely a collaborative team effort, with her presiding over the election as the chief election officer.
The actual election day.
She will be here on site.
And
Council Ville?
do we still have the counters that come in, like the electronic counters?
Correct.
You good? Okay, any other comments, questions from council? If not, then we'll look to resolution. Then somebody move the recommendation.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Hambrick, seconded by Councilor Cooper. Any further questions, queries with regards to position? And I heard you say that Dawn was online.
Yes.
Any need or value to supplemental comments from contractor or?
Dawn, if you'd like to say hello, please feel free to do so. Sorry we can't share our video with you today, but welcome.
Thank you. And I appreciate council's confidence in appointing me as the chief election official. And I really look forward to working with your very competent staff who've been appointed as the deputies. We'll be getting started pretty much immediately with developing a work plan. And then we take it from there based on sort of the natural progression from the work plan. So hopefully between the three of us, we can deliver a smooth election process.
Thank you for that, and sorry to put you on the spot. I mean, in my mind, this just speaks to the extensive process that is involved in election. It's not just about the date or a couple of weeks beforehand. This is the month of April, and already things are starting to be set in place. And to Councilor Greal's point about the information sharing, education of potential candidates is a valuable step, that the conversation that's happening across the province. So it'd be great to see some of those tools put in place. Also, awareness is critical. So I believe I have a mover and a seconder, Councilor Albert, Councilor Cooper. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. So now we move on to public works. And we have a staff report from Mr. Cochran with regards to the members of crosswalk. Mr. Cochran, sir.
Yes, thank you, Worship. The recommendation for council tonight is to confirm the preferred image, signage, and timing options on placement of a commemorative crosswalk near the cenotaph, just down the road outside the building there. This follows the March 17th open council meeting presentation by the Royal Canadian Army Cadets representative, where it was asked of council to consider up to 2 crosswalks on that road adjacent to Town Hall, joining Park Drive and 9th Avenue South, as well as consideration for commemorative crosswalk signage. In the presentation slide deck that's attached to the staff report that was brought to council at the last meeting, there are 3 images presented for crosswalks and 2 different images presented for commemorative crosswalk signage. So if council is interested in authorizing crosswalks to be placed, commemorative crosswalks, council should determine the preferred image, as well as determine whether or not they would prefer one of the 2 options available for commemorative crosswalk signage, or just standard crosswalk signage as we see elsewhere in the community. Unfortunately, okay, there are the 3 options. If we could just, can we slide back to one, please? No, thank you. Okay, there's 1, 2, and 3 for council's consideration.
We'll deal with the image first and then the sign later. Is that a fair approach, or?
Probably, yep, that would be great.
Can you remind us if there in fact was a preference from the group?
If I recall, the presentation option 1 was the preferred image.
And I asked that because they've committed to doing it, maintaining it.
Correct.
Okay, I think that comes over my apologies.
Option 2 was not the option. Remember, he came with a different slide because he found out the Legion would not allow poppies on the ground. So on his slide deck, there was a second option. Oh, it was maple leaves.
I can probably.
Yeah, they said that poppies weren't allowed on the ground, and yeah,
Okay,
remember what it was.
We have some phone on the flag, but we can't.
Sorry about that.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Councilor Emmanuel?
I'm wondering if we have to figure out which image we work with now, because if we're not going to do it for a while while they straighten out what's in front of us. And secondly, I don't know, but we were given at the time the presentation was made as a backup person, and it's probably would be useful to establish contact with him so they can have a spokesperson into what we're doing, including, what kind of design.
Ms. Cochran?
Yeah, through your worship, certainly the staff report goes on to explain that, timing should be a consideration of councils, because of the condition of the roadway, the work that is going to occur in the area, relative to the bridge construction. The image in the staff report shows that the majority of curbing and the sidewalk will be replaced, with the bridge work that's planned, and that will certainly disturb the adjacent asphalt, to some degree. As we all know, the road's in very poor condition. So for the east, proposed location, the road is heavily cracked. It would be, my recommendation to wait for new asphalt before effort was expended to put down something like this, a commemorative crossing, so. To your point.
So to that end, I'm gonna suggest that we kind of take an RDEK approach to this and move forward. And I would suggest that we I'm gonna put a motion forward that we go with crosswalk option number 1. And I suggest this at this point in time because that allows those groups to be able to access those materials, and it may be available right off the shelf, but it may be months delay in getting some of this material, the paints and stuff, and prepare a budget and prepare themselves for us. So to that end, I would move that we go with option 1 for seconder for that. Councilor Wheel, seconding that and speaking to the motion.
Yes, I'll second that. I also think we should go with option 1 for the signage as well.
Okay, I can go with that as a amendment to motion, option 1 to both the image and the signage. Councilor, speaking to the motion.
Well, I was actually gonna amend and take the least we forget words out of the crosswalk if we went with option 1 for the signage. I'm just worried that with words on the ground, if they get stuck, the messaging will change, and like I like the image is fine, I just wasn't sure about actual words on the ground. If it's on the sign, those words are on the sign, just if, who knows what it will spell if letters get missed or scuffed and things like that, that's all. I'm just thinking, but
So move that amendment.
I was gonna motion that we just take the words out of the cross. Because it's on the sign, but
As moved the motion, I won't take that as a friendly amendment. I'll go with image 1 and moving to the seconder.
Yeah.
Leave the image 1 as they have presented, just by virtue of the fact that they presented it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the practicality of your suggestion. Anybody else speaking to the motion, option 1, both image and signage? Councilor Hamburg?
Yeah, I just wanna, is this going to be done after the highway and the highway bridge alignment work is finished? Or where's that at?
Mrs. Cochran?
Through your worship, staff's recommendation would be to go back to the person inquiring and suggest that it wait until after the asphalt is fixed up at a minimum.
And that's the intent, my intent in moving forward. It's a practical implementation of it, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure of that.
Thank you. Councilor Riley?
Thank you. So then just to confirm the motion for is option 1 image, option 1 signage with timing to coincide or follow the completion of ancillary works. Bridge project.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments, Councilor Manuel?
Just, I'm not sure where we are on this amendment, but I believe the lest we forget is, it just goes with, I mean, that's what we're talking about is, remembering. And yeah, so I wouldn't want to see it gone.
It is included in the motion. As could be on this. Any other comments, questions? Last question, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Cochran. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Seville?
Thank you, Mayor Zust. So our technical difficulties are over and we can switch back to our main system, which would provide a better experience for, I think, everyone involved, specifically those folks online. So I'm wondering if council might be interested in recessing for 5 minutes to allow us to get up onto our normal system, let people log off and log back in, and then reconvene the meeting in 5 minutes.
Does this require a resolution?
It sure would.
What would someone move that? And I'm gonna say a 7-minute break. Council moved by Council Will, second by Council Rowley. All those in favor, opposed, carried unanimously. So we'll reconvene at 2020.
Perfect.
Mountains. Daylight savings time.
Yes. And so for everyone online, we will see you shortly. We're gonna start the Zoom back up right away so you can start logging in as soon as possible. Thank you.
You, so Councilman, now you'll have to remember to continue turning on your mic. We were Thank that. We're back now, and I believe everybody's back online. We need a motion to reconvene. Looking around the table, Council Manuel, second by Councilor Routley. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And we move on the agenda to item 10CB, which is the staff report from Mr. Cochran with regards to Public Works electrical upgrades. Mr. Cochran, sir.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The recommendation before council is to direct staff to amend the 2026-2030 draft capital financial plan to increase the 2026 Public Works electrical panel upgrades budget by $84,500 for a total revised project budget of $205,500, and also authorize staff to award a construction contract to Golden Electrical Contracting Limited for a total price of $158,000 plus GST. An invitation to quote for this work was publicly advertised to BC Bid in February and closed. The result being we received 4 proposals. The lowest cost proposal is the recommended proposal. Just for council's background information, this work relates to the Public Works Building on 11th Avenue North. One of 2 facilities that were first recommended for electrical panel upgrades. That building is circa 1976, former Finning tractor building. The main distribution panels and the fuse panels have an anticipated life of 40 years, so these are well beyond that. They were assessed in 2021 and recommended for replacement in 2024. The main project components are outlined in the staff report under discussion, being replacement of the distribution panel, panel replacements, various disconnect and start-stop station replacements for various equipment in the building, asbestos abatement and drywall repairs relative to relocation of power panels, and then temporary power management while the works are replaced, with substantial performance set for October 31st. Just some background on the project funding, the reason for the ask to increase the budget. So the project was initially budgeted in 2025 at $138,750 based on a 2021 consultant report where the opinion of probable cost was $91,250. Once we completed the design, the electrical engineer provided a Class C estimate set at $165,700. So the recommendation isn't terribly far off from that. With the proposed revised budget, there's an allowance for 10% contract administration fee and 20% contingency. And both the initial budget and the requested budget increase to be funded from Buildings and Facilities Capital Reserve. I think I'd welcome any questions at that point.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions of clarification prior to getting a resolution on the floor? I just want to draw attention to one, and I'm looking at the project funding in that in 2025, it was $138,000. And it's come in at 158, which is really great that it aligned with the electrical engineers class C, but it also reflects a 20% increase in approximately 1 year. And that I draw attention to that just to draw attention to the fact that this is the impacts and the costs of doing business that have upon all of us across our community in renovation work, whatever else, but it's also impacts that we as a local government suffer, and those costs, the work needs to get done, and we need to find the money to be able to do it. So any comments before a resolution? With that, we have a recommendation. Looking for a move of the recommendation. Councilor Guile,
Approve the recommendation as presented.
looking for seconder and Councilor Routley. Any comments with regards to the work? Councilor Cooper,
And it's about a 15% increase, $20,000, let's say, for clarity.
thank you for that. Councilor Routley, thank you very much.
You know, just throwing it out there.
Thank you. Now I lost my train of thought.
You'll find it.
Well, actually, I was gonna have a comment in that Mr. Cochran said the life was 40 years, done in 1976. So we squeezed somehow, or our staff have worked around the need for this for at least 10 years. And the 2021 report identified it as needing to be done in 2024. And here we are, 2026, finally getting it done. So thank you to our staff for being able to work safely in an environment that may not be as up to date as anybody would like it to be. So with that, we got the motion, we got it seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Cochran. Moving on. We went from the Mr. Denegar show to the Mr. Cochran show. We have a staff report with regards to well 7 deferrals. Mr. Cochran?
Yes, thank you, Worship. This is coming back to council after the March 17th resolution, where it was resolved to ask staff to return with options to fully fund in 2026 planned component deferrals associated with well 7 construction. So the recommendation before council is to direct staff to amend the 2026 to 2030 draft capital financial plan to increase the 2026 well 7 project budget by $465,000 to be funded from the water capital reserve, and to include all anticipated 2026 deferrals. And the council directs staff to notify contractor Shandos Construction LP that all deferrals are to be included in the 2026 planning and construction. Just within the background of the report, I'll state that the value engineering process was able to meet the revised 2026 project budget brought to council in January 20th of this year, whereby we had increased the former budget for the project by about $800,000 and asked the preferred proponent to reduce their cost by $800,000. Under discussion, the noted deferrals are listed there, totaling $388,000. And then the staff report goes on to state that the recommended budget increase includes 10% contingency allowance and 10% contract administration fee. I will state that there is one deferral that isn't included in this, and that's reinstatement of the basketball court, but staff are intending to talk to CBT to see if we can potentially access some funds from them to support that. In any case, the intention would be to bring it back in once the contractors cleared the site. welcome any questions.
Thank you for that, Mr. Cochran. Council Quill, question, clarification, information?
Yeah, I have a couple questions because I did go back into the integrated water study and I was noticing that Urban Systems had said that that well would produce 42 liters. I guess, I don't know how much, minute or something, whatever. And then if you add the UV, it would increase it to 54. Now, if I remember, did they have the information from the testing on that when they made that claim? Because I thought that the water that was coming out was way more than what was anticipated. That
Mr. Cochran, are you able to?
Yeah, through your worship, so the initial design includes a 100 horsepower submersible pump, and I'm testing my memory, but the ultimate design capacity for the station is 54 liters a second.
right?
That's with 3 reactors in the building.
Yeah.
The current design proposal and construction proposal is to include 2 UV reactors. Council may recall that we deferred one initially. So this will include 2 of the possible 3 in the building, which at that point will support community development, max day demand for the next 20 years.
Excellent. The other question was with the I'm losing it. Is there any other generators on any of the other pumps in town?
Mr. Cochran?
Through your worship, including well 7, that will account for backup generators at wells 3, 4, 5, and 7.
And are those other ones sized right for those wells?
Excuse me, let me correct that.
sorry.
We don't have a backup generator at well 4. So 3, 5, and 7.
Okay, because the reason I wanted this to go forward is because the importance of having that generator for fire protection. And from going back and reading about some of the fires that have happened, like at Lytton and in Hawaii and that, where they would run out of pressure and they didn't have backup generators.
So then to the question of whether or not 3, 5, 6,
3, 5, and 7.
3, 5, and 7. Well, so we know 7 will have adequate backup generation. 3 and 5, would they have adequate for fire pumping services?
They do.
Purpose.
Your worship, they do. I'll also remind council that in the 5-year capital financial plan, we've got plans to move the unused generator from well 6, the former well 6, over to well 2 by the senior center. And then in a subsequent year, I believe it's 2028, incorporate a backup generator for well 4 that will support both well 4 and adjacent public works building.
And the amount of water that's being produced in this one well it's equal to almost all the other wells together, is that?
Through your worship, well 5 is our highest producer at about 500 gallons a minute.
Okay.
I'll speak in gallons if I may.
Right.
Well 7 at full capacity is going to be around 750 gallons. So it'll be our highest producer. Ultimately, it will be our highest producer.
Right.
And the limiting factor in all of these is the pumping capacity.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Another question or clarification? I had one question with regards to the contracted men. Is that an internal or an external expense? I guess page 2, the top of page 2.
Yeah, your worship, it'll be well, technically it'll be consultant led.
So we hire a third party to oversee the construction.
Yep, it'll also involve internal forces though. We'll be inspecting as well.
Thank you. Councilor Cooper.
My question is just because I got excited because I heard the basketball net may return. Would that include, would there be able to be flooded for a rink in the winter time potentially if that was to be able to come apart from other funding?
Mr. Cochran?
Through your worship, at this point, it would be the intent would be to replace like for like. There has been some discussions about potentially decreasing the size of the hard surface to include one basketball net. But in any event, I'm sure that we could put ice on it in the winter as we do presently.
I think it's a nice part for that area of town to have that recreation there.
Thank you. So council, if there's no other questions of clarification, looking for someone to move the recommendation, Councilor Grill.
Yeah, I'll move option one, approve the recommendation as presented.
I'll second that, and I'll thank Councilor Grill for bringing this back. And getting those deferred items, getting them done, biting the bullet now. It'll actually, in my mind, it'll save money down the road, and it gives us capacity sooner rather than later. So speaking in favor of the motion, any other speakers to the motion? Seeing here none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Cochran. And you're going to speak on behalf of Mr. Forsyth and his staff report?
Yes, your worship. So this one, this report for council is to authorize staff under the current draft operating budget to award a swimming pool boiler renewals contract to Kardash Plumbing and Heating Limited for a total cost of $29,028. In the pool mechanical room, we've got two propane fired boilers. They're circa 2009. When they were inspected at startup in 2025, it was identified that both boilers could use some internal mechanical renewals. One has a cracked heat exchanger. The other one has some internal signs of corrosion. So both boilers require recommended renewal work to ensure continued reliable service. The operations manager did invite quotes from a number of qualified proponents in March last month, but only received one proposal as recommended to council at $29,028. I'll just state that the anticipated budget for this was $35,000, so it's on budget. Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you for that. Good to hear within budget, Councilor Cooper.
My question is kind of for yourself and Director Petrovich about when we were talking about pools before, and I thought there was an issue with boilers couldn't be in the same facility. There was changes to construction rules, and does it matter? Like, is this within the codes that are now in place? Like, I remember we were talking about potentially there had to be electrical and boilers and things separated. That was something that was on the table before if we were going to upgrade the pool. Does this meet a pool upgrade or the standards what we would be looking if potentially we could upgrade a pool? Yeah.
Mr. Petrovic?
I'll take a swing at this one. And I think that this might be a little bit of something that might have been pulled in when we talk more about looking at a feasibility study and large scale renovations to the space. In that if we were to be doing a full replacement of our filtration system and boilers and electrical systems within that room, specifically electrical, that we would want to do some more work on the code compliance with the amount of electrical in the same room that all the filtration and water is in. However, for a renovation of this nature, we're fixing existing equipment that's in the space, so any clauses in that wouldn't require changes on that side of things. But I believe this conversation might have come up more when we were talking about the options and studies and larger improvements to the existing outdoor pool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Follow-up, Mr. Cochran.
I'd maybe just add that a better situation certainly would be if the electrical equipment was in a separate room from anything that's got water. Absolutely. And by today's standards, it would probably not meet current code. It would be grandfathered.
But by virtue of it being a renovation, we're able to do this and keep the facility operating appropriately. Thank you for
Future,
that.
future pool no doubt would have separate rooms.
Yeah. Key Council, if there's no further questions of clarification, we have a recommendation. Council Routley.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to move option one, approving the recommendation as presented.
Okay, looking for a seconder. Council Grill. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Again, thank you for that. Moving forward in a number of different areas, which is great. So we're moving on to Planning and Development Department. We have 10DA, which is a staff report from Mr. Armstrong with regards to development cost charges. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Mayor Azust. In the virtual gallery, we have Sarah Anderson and Jen Waite with Urban Systems. So thanks for sticking around for this topic. So within this report, there's a bit of a lengthy background section related to development related infrastructure. Specifically, council will recall in late 2024, there was a DCC 101 presentation. And then in February and May, the DCC scenarios were presented to council and direction was given to move ahead with consultation on scenario 2. Following that, there was some adjustments made to the sewer master plan, and the town agreed to front end the 12th Street lift stations and pipes. As well, there was an update to the DCC best practice guide. So instead of coming back to council, there was some updates done based on those approved projects and those requirements in the DCC best practice guide. And there was an updated scenario 2 that went out for consultation. And that occurred in January. And there's a table on page 3 of the report that outlines a variety of those scenarios, including the all project scenario that was solely presented for council information that had all the high, medium, and low priority projects within it. That capital program totaled $110 million. And the updated scenario that was used for consultation had a total capital cost of $28.9 million. All the projects are listed on the next page that are included in that updated DCC scenario for consultation, and that's table 2. And then table 3 shows the portion that would be DCC recoverable of 25.6 million with 3.5 million municipal cost, both the assist factor and the benefit allocation to the existing taxpayer. So with that background, in January, we had the developer stakeholder session. It was pretty well attended with 20 or so representatives. There was a number of pieces of correspondence received that are appended to the What We Heard report. As well, the town conducted a survey that was advertised on our social media. And there was 163 respondents to that survey. And there was one late piece of correspondence received that we've included with this report from the Canadian Home Builders Association, the interior chapter. I suppose when considering this next step, there's a few items outlined in the Local Government Act that council needs to consider, and those are not be excessive in relation to the capital costs of prevailing standards of service, deter development, discourage development of reasonably priced housing or reasonably priced service land, or discourage development designed to result in low environmental impact. Overall, the survey respondents, 53% thought that growth should pay for growth and supported that philosophy, and 40% felt that the DCC increase was too high as well. That's although there's much more nuanced responses and thoughtful responses from the development stakeholder community, that was the sentiment as well, that the rates were too high. So in the report, there's a bit of analysis of increasing the municipal assist factor, and that basically every time that municipal assist factor increases from the minimum of 1%, it equates to a 1% tax increase and a 1 to 1.4% utility increase using last year's dollars. So if the municipal assist factor was increased to 10%, that would result in about a $3,000 decrease in the single detached dwelling DCC rate. Another option, if council wanted to look at reducing the DCC rates, would be to do project deferment. So in other words, say take a project like the sewage treatment plant and defer it until the next major update, which would be in 4 or 5 years, or depending on growth patterns. But typically, it's best practice to do those upgrades every 5 years. Another option could be Selkirk Hill, but it depends on the value of the project, how much of a reduction there would be. There's a bit more analysis on some of the other factors here on page 6, but ultimately, it's worth noting here in the financial section that the town is supporting development in other ways other than the municipal assist factor, and that includes well 7 that was just spoken about, front-ending the 12th Street lift stations. Soon the Pine Drive alternate sewer alignment will come back to council, and that the proposal there is to front end the development related portion of that and recover it over time, through like we did with the 12th Street connection fees. And as mentioned earlier, in the current program, there is a $3.5 million municipal portion. So there's a few options on the last page, and those include looking at the municipal assist factor, project deferment, and ultimately another option would be just to and some of these, you know, these can be combined, but the last option is simply to provide a price range and then also look at project deferment, and then staff can come back. So if we jumped to page 42 or 43 of this PDF, there's the townhouse and the apartment categories. And you'll note that Golden is sitting at the top of those categories in the comparisons. So that may be a factor too that the council might want to look at. So myself, Director Cochran, and Urban Systems are waiting if there's any questions or other feedback we can provide.
Thank you for that, Mr. Armstrong. Council, prior to getting a resolution on the floor, is there any question of clarification, supplemental information needed? Councilor Guillaume?
Thank you, Mayor Roses. I do wonder if there's been some thought, because I kind of have an option 5. If there's been some thought about, okay, no deferrals, a 3-year rate phased in for like 50, 75%, and then 100% in the 3rd year. And then perhaps DCC waiver for apartments and affordable rentals, so that we could, you know, that would be promoting that kind of build. I just think that's a huge hit. And you know, I know Salmon Arm, Delta, Cranbrook have used a phased in. And I know with the waiver, Parksville and Surrey and Vancouver have used it. So that's my option.
So Mr. Armstrong, are you able to speak to some of those, the phased-in approach and the waiver for affordable housing quotation marks?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it, and then I'll defer to Urban to supplement. But
Thank you.
Earlier we we presented to council on waivers, and basically the taxpayer would have to make up the portion that's waived. So that is something that can be handled outside of this DCC bylaw if council wishes to do that for a certain type of housing product, but it's the taxpayer that ultimately makes up that. And so, for example, it could be narrowed down to something that's very specific, like deep subsidy affordable housing, for example, that it could be as nuanced as that, or it could be all the way to market rental. As far as phasing it in, Urban has advised that the way to do a phase in is through the municipal assist factor and have that scale down over 3 years or over 5 years. And by all means, Jen or Sarah, please weigh in.
Any supplemental information, Sarah?
Through your worship, I was involved in the update in the Salmon Arm and can confirm that they leveraged the municipal assist to do that multi-year phase in. So their municipal assist factor ranged per program, but it started off at about a 75% and then reduced down to the final 1% or less than 1%, or 1%, apologies. For that final year. So that was the methods with which Salmon Arm got their phased in approach for the DCC.
Thank you for that, Jen. Any follow-up, Councilor Grill? No, okay. Any other comments? Councilor Cooper?
Yeah, I am concerned that the townhouse and the apartment, we need to have a variety of housing in our community, and having the rates so high on those two particular ones with the low and medium density, I struggle with, because that is type of housing that we don't have enough of and we could use more of. And I worry with the high charges for those two particular components, we're actually deterring development, which I don't want. So I think a phased in approach or whatever we can do. And I do like, when I was reading through some of the ideas of, are necessarily all of these projects, I know we've gone back to it, but I think I said last time too, like these projects, what potentially in there would not be affected in the next 5 years, because we can come and add projects as projects fall off. So could we take any of the long-term ones that wouldn't be actually being utilized for the next 5 years out, hence lowering the DCCs, and then as we complete projects, then putting them back in to when it would be a time, because I feel like we've got projects here that we're not even going to be doing in the next 5 years, potentially. Or you can share light on, are these all going to be on the books in the next 5 years?
Mr. Armstrong, able to respond with regards to the adding of projects and changing the CCs over time?
Yeah, the DCC program is a 20 to 25 year program, or a 20-year program. So the idea is to have some money accumulating over time. Some of the projects will need to be done sooner than others, but that's factored in. And really, staff has looked, in the two projects that came to mind to us for deferment were Selkirk Hill and the sewage treatment plant. And again, Jen or Sarah, please jump in.
Anything to add, Jen or Sarah?
No, nothing to add. Your worship, like if the deferral of a project is the chosen method, yes, you have the opportunity to update the bylaw. The suggested timeline from the province is that 3 to 5 years, depending on the significance of the updates, and reintroduce projects at that time.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Armstrong, I'm hearing that although the project may not happen in the next 5 years, there is a desire to accumulate some of the funds to be able to do that project when it does come in year 6 or 7. Is that an opportunity that provides access to possibly grants that are coming down the road to have some of that money available to leverage?
Potentially, if we have that money to leverage, it can be our matching 50%. Let's say it's 50-50 grant, for example. then when the DCC program is updated, the 50% would be adjusted out of the DCC reserves if there was a grant. The benefits of that are to be shared with the DCC program. So for example, the Fifth Ave sewer project that's in here, Mr. Cochran spoke of looking to start designing that in 2028 and building it in 2031. So some of these projects are imminently coming up as needs. And they'll be continued to be monitored for sure, and but they're ones that are definitely on the radar.
Thank you for that. And so from that, I take that there's the intent to be able to garner any grants that might be available for a project when it comes up, but also to be able to have our money there to leverage the capital for future projects. But with each of these works, there's always the intent to try and garner grants if at all possible. If it's not possible, it's not possible. The work still needs to be done. But just for common information, that the intent is always to try and get grants to reduce the impacts down the road. And it's, like you said, it's addressed on a every 5 years type of basis. Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Councilor Manuel?
I was just wondering, we get a developer in, and I know there are different ways of working with DCCs. Can we work with a developer to find the one that works best for both of us? Or is there that kind of room to figure out? I'm thinking, again, with different kinds of DCCs or different payments, ways of paying, is there a way do we have the room to work with developers to find the best one for each of us?
For clarification, you're talking about on a project by project basis? Yes. Anybody able to respond? Mr. Armstrong, start us off.
The DCC program is a set program, so once the fees are established, those are the fees that are applicable. So that was part of the reason why I went out to consultation with the development community, and there was a variety of suggestions there. Some of them were analyzed within the report. For example, the idea of having like a square footage basis for apartments, and I think there's a balance there of having a system that's easy to administer, but also not necessarily disincentivizing certain types of units like larger apartments that may be suited to families, for example. So, we definitely analyzed a lot of that feedback. I think some communities went that route where there's big ski hill homes being built, and ultimately, it was duly considered, and now we're looking at some potential options to move forward here, and I think Urban might have something they could add to that too.
I did notice, by the way, that
a significant number of people, one of the problems they faced was there was a big change since we hadn't kept on top of our DCCs, which I know we're now going to do, but you could equally consider that a holiday for some people, unfortunately.
Historically, as you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That Sarah, Jen, anything to add to Mr. Armstrong's comments?
Through your worship, the province is set to update existing regulations regarding the payment of DCCs by installments. So it's anticipated that qualified developers and home builders paying greater than 50,000 in DCCs to a local government will be able to use on-demand surety bonds province-wide and pay 25% of DCCs at permit approval and pay the remaining 75% at time of occupancy or within 4 years, whichever is earliest. So that's a recent development undertaken by the province, and that provides a bit more flexibility at the amount at which a developer is required to pay. But importantly there is that they will need to be qualified to leverage that tool.
Thank you for that. Any supplemental information? If not, I'll go on to the next question or comment. Councilor Routley.
Thank you, Mayor. I suppose you know, while the surety bond approach is certainly nice, you know, obviously there's the holding costs of those surety bonds, and ultimately that gets forwarded to the end user of any. I hate referring to housing as product, but whatever is ultimately purchased at the end, that purchaser will pay that plus any, you know, premiums, plus a markup, I'm sure, because developers are in the business of building homes. I want to start by thanking staff and Urban with the report. But I have to echo a lot of concerns. You know, it certainly, you know, within the framing of the Local Government Act, as far as, you know, ensuring that there is consideration as to whether DCCs are excessive. You know, while 40% of the survey respondents felt that the DCC increase was, sorry, I want to bring up the actual, in here, it was much too high. An additional 17% thought it was slightly too high. So for clarity, it was the majority of survey respondents, 57%, felt it was at some degree above what it should land at. And you know, certainly I don't want to perpetuate this problem of deferring projects, and again, kind of making it a future person's problem, whether it's developers, the community, and certainly it will likely end up falling in some combination of the two. But ultimately, the costs feel they do feel excessive, in my opinion. Particularly when we're looking at higher density or ultimately lower floor plan or floor area, again, products or housing, and I would say that, you know, I would challenge maybe the notion, respectfully, always, that perhaps the square footage or gross floor area approach is in any means difficult to administer. Every stamped drawing provides gross floor area. It's certainly a bit of math, and I think that if developers, you know, are always open to the market pressures, they're going to, you know, throw in a couple of units of 3 or 4 bedroom apartments, which, you know, may or may not be rented or sold. Ultimately, our housing needs report identifies that studios and 1 bedroom, you know, lower gross floor area units are the priority for sure moving forward. But and that those aren't 29 square meter for sure. Those are 29 square meters is a dorm room. You know, I think I brought out the tape measure to measure my little basement suite and that I rent, and I think I sat at like the 80 square meter, whatever it was. It was about 800 square feet, which is about twice that footprint. And you know, it's a product that might be a little bit too large for myself, but when my roommate is around, then I definitely appreciate the space. I don't know. Personally, I don't know that we have sufficient information to make a decision at this time. Personally, I would love to see what the square meter rates or equivalent square meter rates would look like, what those implications would look like for detached secondary residential dwellings or other gentle density measures that we certainly would love to see come to the community, or higher density product, and on say that we're starting to see proposed within the development community. I'll leave it at that, and I'm sure I'll speak again.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Councilor Quill, you had you next.
Just wondering, if we did do it in a phased in, do we have to increase the municipal assist factor? Is that like a must?
And Mr. Armstrong, are you able to respond?
That's the advice we've gotten from the consultant, and as Jen spoke to, that's how it's handled in Salmon Arm as well.
Follow up, Councilor Quill?
That's how it was handled there, but there's no other way to handle it. I like, if the provincial government is gonna allow them to pay it on bond, then why wouldn't we be able to allow them to phase in what they pay?
So Jen, are you able to respond to that?
Yes, through your worship. So the reason for the leveraging of the municipal assist factor for phasing allows the local government to have that phasing enacted through the bylaw at the first initial review and adoption from the ministry. So the municipal assist, you can have that functionally act as a phasing in through those years. If you were to not leverage the municipal assist factor, you would have to go in every year to get a new rate approved by the ministry and reviewed, because you cannot, that's the only method with which you can phase in your rates to have the bylaw adopted and be standing for the period of time that you would like the bylaw enforced from without updating.
Follow up, Councilor Quill? So it sounds like process is working against that pathway in essence, the formal process from the province. Councilor Manuel?
I just want to check, I mean, I think these numbers look high, basically partly, but it depends. If compared to what we've had, they are definitely a large increase. But if I understand correctly, and please correct me if I don't, they are essentially in line with our neighbors. So I have a negative there, but they're essentially what everyone, our local other communities nearby are charging. Is that, have I misunderstood?
Mr. Armstrong?
If you start at page 40 of the PDF and scroll down, you'll see the comparison tables. You know, some of the categories like that were pointed out in the report, the apartment and the townhouse categories were definitely at the top. Project deferral would adjust that. But yeah, there is some catch up here. There is in-stream protection from 1 year when the bylaw is adopted. And this has been communicated with the development community for over a year that these changes were coming. We're still quite some time away from bylaw adoption as well. And I just wanted to circle back to Councillor Guillaume's comments. I think there's two concepts that were spoken about earlier. One was DCC installment payments. And that's when the developer actually has to make those payments to the town if under that regulation, if they're not, typically they're collected at the time of building permit issuance or subdivision approval. But there is methods of which to defer those payments for a few years versus the municipal assist factor, which has to do with the rate setting. So I think maybe that's what you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. So I didn't want the municipal assist to be affected, but I think instead of them having to pay it all up front, if they could defer it, it'd be great.
Follow up, Mr. Armstrong, or not? Thoughtful pause.
Yeah, the installment is something that that we'd have to look into the regulations of it, and there's qualifications and bonding involved. So I don't think all the developers would seek to go that route, but it would shift the payment into installments for a few years for those that sought to do it. And those were that would be outside of the in-stream protection program where folks would probably really seek to utilize that.
I guess I'll also take the opportunity to draw attention to the fact that the charts that are provided, there's a number of the communities, that are up for review. My apologies. And the other part that was sad to see was golden at the bottom of those, and the gap between where we were and where we need to be. Councilor Cooper? Save me.
Yeah, so if we are, when we're looking at apartments, we are $9,000 over the next person, which is Sun Peaks, which is 19,000. We're at 28,000. So there is a significant difference within the low and the medium density. Our rates are the highest out of all of our neighboring communities. So that is the concern. Why build here when you can go somewhere else and build without such charges? My concern over the municipal assist program, my understanding is if we go with a municipal assist program, then it goes back onto the taxpayers, correct? Because taxpayers are already paying for budgets, systems. So then we're just taking back from developers and putting on the taxpayers, which I don't really want to do either. But I do like the idea of an installment process. But these numbers to me are just the townhouses, the low and the medium density are just too high. Like I would love to hear other options, how to get those two classes just lower and more in line with some of the other communities. We are the highest there, and that is the housing that we do need the most of, I feel.
Thank you. I've got myself on the list if I can get through this. I'm supportive of staff and the contract to bring back some supplementation with regards to town reduction in townhouses, apartments, and those housing products that are identified through the housing needs assessment and through the strategy, so that we can look at that. And if there is the possibility that some of these, I think I'm just looking for the double star, the communities with the proposed rates subject to change, if there's any update on some of those, that may change the graph a little bit too. So do we know if these charts, these graphs are absolutely up to date today, or is there potential that some of them have made their changes to the DCCs and the graph might look a little differently, Mr. Armstrong? Do we know that?
The work dates back to early January, but Urban may be able to add some information based on other communities they're working in.
So I'll look to either Jen or Sarah, please.
Through your worship, I believe we have the draft rates incorporated there, and those asterisks are just dependent on approval by the ministry. Just taking a quick look at the communities. I believe Invermere's has been finalized and approved at this point, but that would have been the same rates themselves. Salmon Arm is in the process of submission. And I believe that the same goes with Radium. I am uncertain of the status of Cranbrook at this point, but I do know Revelstoke has been adopted, which is in line here. And I have not heard of any updates to Fernie's as of right now, but we can take another look to confirm.
Thank you. So my takeaway is that these graphs represent what each of these communities are proposing or were proposing to the province, but may not have been formally approved at this point in time.
Correct.
Thank you. Councilor Routley?
Thank you, Mayor, and certainly supportive of the request for further information. Again, tacking on that square metered approach. I think that there's also a need for information around, rather than impact to ownership, which is certainly it would be great to see greater proportion of ownership. The reality is, as identified within the OCP conversations thus far, is that the proportion of renting in the community is increasing, and while there's a one-time, or really because of mortgaging, it's an extended impact to the final purchaser on the ownership model. Certainly, too, there is the inflation of rents as a result of these rates. And again, if we're looking at the townhouses or apartments in this case, 28,000. I did do a spreadsheet. Tacking on the cost to actually construct, which I mean, Golden is certainly at the high end of the spectrum within the province. If we're lucky and pin down a $400 square foot rate, like it's anywhere from if let's say it's a 400 square foot unit, you know, it's a markup of about 18% is what that DCC looks like, and equates to, you know, assuming a 10% payback period hoped by the developer is looking at over $200 in additional rent monthly for the renters to cover. Within the conversation around you know, the overall amounts, I guess greater information around the benefit allocation would also be helpful, particularly within the sewer sanitary sewer portion of the program. Of course, the Fifth Ave South sections have been updated as mentioned in the report, but you know, I would wonder how much my mind goes to previous reports received by council respective to the sewer treatment plant and the upgrades that are necessary by virtue of regulation updates, if I recall correctly, and whether a 100% benefit factor is actually fair. And certainly there's some comments that we've received around, you know, this by virtue of playing catch up. There has been a benefit to the cheaper, or benefit from the cheaper DCCs that by residents that have purchased or otherwise built homes in the last while, and whether there's an argument to be made around recouping costs from the existing taxpayers. I fully recognize that folks would prefer not to see that benefit, but in the same sense that we have had some conversations about water and sewer user rates, and certainly the tax rate conversation within the Standing Committee on Finance. You know, there's I see a valid argument to be made, and I think it needs to be fully fleshed out around whether the benefit factor is if there's a firm rationale behind that benefit factor, and you know, again, sewer accounts for like 67% of the DCC. So if ultimately the existing taxpayer or users are contributing to the existing system, which of course they are, then I would hope that there is an equitable allocation of those costs. So I would just seek greater information around the, I guess, methodology of the benefit factor relative to those projects in particular, because of their higher proportion of contribution towards the DCCs, and whether there is a bit of catch up that could be made as argued in the written submissions.
Thank you for that. Councilor Otley, any other comments from council or Mr. Armstrong? Response?
Yeah, I would, we have the benefit of having Sarah and Jen online, and I think they can speak to the benefit allocation and sewer, also why it was adjusted for those Fifth Ave projects. If you jump to PDF page 12, there's a breakdown of each project and the benefit allocations for sewer. And yeah, I passed the mic to Urban.
So passing the mic to Jen, I'm assuming.
Probably that will be me, your worship, to respond to that. So
tell by the smile from Jen. Sorry, Sarah.
No, that's okay. So maybe starting with how the province and the ministry view the benefit factor allocation. So if an upgrade to an infrastructure is due to just to additional capacity, so just to growth, then the ministry will consider that 100% benefit factor to the project. If the replacement or the upgrade of the infrastructure of an existing infrastructure that is let's just say they will need to be replaced 10 years down the road. So based on condition and assessment, then the ministry and the province recommend to lower the benefit factor from 100% to something less. And something less is left to the consultant based on the analysis of the condition of the existing infrastructure to determine what is the reduction. So that's why you see the reduction, for example, like in the benefit factor for Fifth Avenue. And the difference between 90% and 75% is based really on the existing status of those pipes, or like the existing condition of the pipes. So assuming that those pipes will need to be replaced in the next 10 to 15 years, or like 20 years, hence the reduced benefit factor. The 100% benefit factor allocation, those are for the items. They are all related to the wastewater treatment plant upgrades. And the concept here is that those upgrades are due to growth, meaning the existing population can use the existing wastewater treatment plant as it is, and just probably maintain it through the years. But if we want to add the capacity to the wastewater treatment plant, they need to be upgraded. And hence, the upgrade is just allocated to growth. And therefore, the 100% benefit factor. Now, if there is a desire from council to lower the benefit factor based on an argument that the existing residents could or should contribute to the upgrade, that can be made as well. The province had just a couple of rules related to the benefit factor percentage determination, but is left open to also council direction based on stakeholder engagement or public engagement or desire to reallocate the benefit factor to existing residents as well.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Any follow-up, Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I guess I totally respect the decision in my mind to, I guess, reduce it to something as simple as possible. It's like if let's say we're upgrading a segment of pipe and the existing use would account for 75% of the upgraded capacity of that pipe, I struggle with the attempt to, you know, gain more of that and force that onto growth when ultimately they're not responsible for that 75%. It's an equity piece that, you know, again, it's there's at least the enablement by the province to do that. I struggle with the consideration of that in general, though.
Thank you. Council, any further comments? I will say I'm interested in receiving supplemental information with regards to the benefit factor allocation. I like the idea of the square meter approach to be able to address some of the needs that have been identified by our community. And utilizing these processes to be able to strategize on how we can get specific products built in our community, I think goes a long way to addressing identified needs again. Mr. Armstrong, what do you see as the approach here? Do you need resolution? Do you direction from the discussion? I can ask if anybody's contrary to staff and the contractor bringing this back to council with some supplementary information with those three areas. We list the areas.
Yeah, so I guess this is this will be the fourth time that this has been in front of council. And I appreciate the idea of wanting to have a square footage rate for residential. Like, by all means, we can administer it, we can calculate it, we can communicate it. We've done that for commercial. So that's not necessarily a challenge, but we'll have to go back and bring information back to the council table. There isn't much more that can be added on the benefit allocation other than what Sarah explained. It's if it can be attributed to growth, it's been attributed to growth. Where it can't be, it hasn't been. And this is the right out of the DCC best practice guide and engineering standards. So I think if we're going to look at something differently, then maybe it should be the municipal assist factor versus adjusting benefit allocations, and I'd weigh in with Urban on that. But ultimately, I think the cleanest direction probably would be to have an idea of approximately where we would want to end up in that townhouse apartment category, and how council feels about project deferment. Because if the direction is to lower these costs, that's really what we're looking for, and then ultimately we will come back with how to get there, with hopes of bringing a bylaw forward for readings, and we can adjust to the square footage rate if there's a consensus for that. So maybe that's the first discussion point is the residential square footage or square meter rate.
So to Councillor Hambrick?
Yes, thank you, Worship. Yeah, that residential, the square footage rate, is that kind of the idea that the bigger the square footage, the higher the square footage rate is? Is that even something possible within the provincial framework of DCCs?
Who's able to respond to that? Look to the contractor, look to Mr. Armstrong, starts off.
Yeah, other municipalities have set ranges for residential units, like, so, there'll be a range for 500 to 700 square feet, and then there'll be, or up to 700, and then there'll be a range for 700 to 1,000, and then a price for over 1,000. Now, I think, and Jen, Sarah, please add, I think the per unit rate is pretty standard when it comes to the DCC residential category, and the category split into these high, medium, low categories, and that's the norm. But some communities are shifting away from that.
Through your worship, Revelstoke recently adopted a square meter approach for residential units. So essentially that meant that the larger the dwelling, the more the DCC you would have to pay. So similarly to commercial, you have a certain number per square meter that you have to pay. So the rate would be determined by how much square footage that unit would possess or was proposed to have.
Thank you. Councilor Cooper?
Just looking at the breakdown and how little money is there for parks and, unfortunately, Mr. Cochran's roads, I would just say take parks and roads out and leave sewer and water and be done with it, and that be the rate, because those are the main things that we need, is the sewer and the water. And if we took out, unfortunately, the road and park portion, that would lower our DCCs to be within more alignment of what other areas would be. And then I would apologize to Mr. Cochran that I want to take his roads out.
Thank you for that. And I would actually go back to some of our historical language about core services, water, sewer, and roads. And I wouldn't disagree with that, but I like the idea of continue to focus on the core services and including roads in those core services, as we have defined for the last probably at least decade plus.
I'm just trying to figure out a way that we don't have to keep going back and forth, because
Yeah.
it does keep coming back to us, and council keeps saying it's too high, but then it comes back and it's still at the same rates. And then we're having this discussion again saying it's still too high. We don't know how to make it not so high. So when looking at it, I was just thinking that we could just take out some of and just focus right now on our main sewer and water. Like those are the main areas that have the biggest issues, the biggest things that we need adjustments and fixing. And it just was like staring when I'm looking at these charts, like that is something that we could manage, and that would bring it down to a rate that I think that most counselors then potentially could find more palatable than going back and forth and asking for different options and things that we don't get anywhere. And then we keep doing this every 3 months and we keep saying it's too high. What can we do?
And they haven't gone up anything.
Yeah.
And they stay at the old rates. With that, I'll go to Mr. Cochran.
Yeah, thanks for your worship. I just wanted to say that, remind council that it's been stated, I know in the earlier meetings, that all of the things contained in scenario 2 are the top priority infrastructure projects that are required based on the growth that we're projecting over the next 20 to 25 years in our master reports. When we looked at how we might reduce these rates before Director Armstrong prepared his staff report, we talked to the consultant about the prospect of perhaps couching the sewage treatment plant components in a different way, instead of identifying individual components out of the capacity feasibility study that was commissioned. Just simply state that we want a lump sum value for sewage treatment plant, call it capacity increase if you like. And the reason that we would consider doing that is that we would only propose that if we had a fairly high level of confidence that we would be talking to council again in about 5 years with a new bylaw update, where we'd be bringing back more of the sewage treatment plant components, or just increasing that value that we're calling sewage capacity increase at the sewage treatment plant, whatever it is. But because the sewage treatment plant overall cost, I think, was in the range of $30 million, and we were always sort of positioning that we need something in the DCC program for the sewage treatment plant in order to have some funds growing in order to ready ourselves for large upper level government granting. Where I don't think Golden's ever going to come to be able to afford a $30 million capacity increase at the sewage treatment plant on its own. So there was a way to potentially decrease the program by, I'd just say arbitrarily, up to a third in the rates that you're seeing, by reducing it maybe to $5 million instead of $15 million, for example. But we'd have to come back to council in 5 years and say add another 5 million to the program for the sewage treatment plant, or 10 million at that time. Because we've all read the What We Heard report, and in the What We Heard report, I think a lot of the sentiment was that staff and council need to consider phasing. Like a lot of the development community, it seemed to me, when in my reading, they agree that these rates need to be way higher than they are right now, but what they're looking for is phasing. So that would be a way for us to consider phasing at 5-year increments of our bylaw updates.
I would say I think that's a great compromise. Like that, I think that's a great compromise, because if we can come back in 5 years, then we can add, if we have that base rate, then we could get to a more palatable DCC rate, but also it gives us the option in 5 years, as Mr. Cochran said, to add back in things if we have it. And then we are getting a rate that is palatable, which will still encourage development, which will still give us the low to medium density that we require. And I do like Councillor Griot's point, is if there is more affordability in some units, having some breaks for that. But at the same time, I think that is the best compromise that I've heard so far, if we could get something to that degree.
Okay, thank you for that. I have the speakers list, Councillor Utley, and then Councillor Manuel.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm certainly open to that approach, and you know, in 5 years' time, the council may consider, you know, an adjustment to the municipal assist factor, as we'll have, you know, a much broader tax base potentially to carry some of that burden, knocking on wood. And yeah, like, certainly still would love to, I still need to, would prefer to see a square meter rate for higher density product homes. But certainly that approach of you know, putting in $5 million towards you know, sewer treatment or wastewater treatment plant upgrades that certainly are going to be necessary through growth, the regulatory changes, and then just general operational safety is a great first step, and at least then we've got something in the bank that, yeah, when this magic bullet grant becomes available and is an auto approval for the town of Golden, then we can say yes that again, knocking on wood as well. So yeah, certainly partial towards a pseudo phased approach towards the wastewater treatment plant, it being about, well, a little over 50% of the total DCC emissions, and trying to reduce that. But again, really needing to see an approach that supports and doesn't disincentivize or otherwise harm higher density product, which in my opinion the per unit rate currently does.
Thank you for that. Quick thought is, and I mean, we're talking about a $30 million upgrade. When you talk to other communities, they're looking at $80 to $100 million new plants. And with that, I think to myself, well, thank you to staff for their diligence in the product that we have and being able to maintain it in the way that they have, so that we're not looking at that number being $80+ million. Just wanted to make that comment, and I had Councilor Manuel next.
Yes, we got, I want to make this palatable, people, and construction keeps on happening and we get more housing, absolutely. And if we do take the parks out of it, I think we need to make sure we bring it back, because I've been reading more than once that as you increase density, neighborhood parks make them palatable. It's livable, and that's an important thing. Yeah, it's grass kind of thing, but at the same time, it can also be an important element in increasing density community.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ridley, did your hand go up?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I wouldn't be supportive of removing the parks personally. It's less than 1% of the total costs, and is certainly a worthwhile project for further planning. I guess a question to staff and or the contractors on the process moving forward. So if in fact council moves forward with granting first and second, seeking greater clarity or an alternate approach around application to DCC projects, first, second reading, is there further opportunity for folks within the community, whether that's just members of the public, residents, ratepayers, and the development community to weigh in further before third reading, and if so, just kind of like broad timeline moving from here.
Mr. Armstrong?
There wasn't in our work plan another step of checking in with the stakeholder community, and I just thought I'd provide a bit more background to just in quick summary to what Chris said, and that option 2A should probably said partial reductions to the sewage treatment plant projects, and kind of repackaging them a bit to land at that price point. So when we started this, the sewer feasibility study had 30 million. We put in $16 million worth of projects into the scenario two, the higher scenario rate that we presented to council, that council said, go consult with this. And now we can go down further to get those rates down to approximately the $5 million rate, if that's the direction that we're getting from council. And then the second thing I'm hearing is residential, come back with the 3 residential categories and some square footage options, and then leave the rest of the program as is. And if that's the direction I'm hearing at the table, that we can package that up and come back for first reading. And I'll leave that on the table for now.
Thank you for encapsulating that, Mr. Armstrong. I got a speaker in Council Cooper.
I would like to see like a 5 and a 10 million. So down from the 15, like options of what it would look like at 5 million and what it would look like at a 10 million. And then we could increase potentially after that, after the 5-year mark. So that gives us 2 options of rates at 5 million and a 10 million, and see where that lands in the charting kind of thing.
Or it could even include the 10 million up front and then look for purchase.
Yeah,
That
just kind of
gives you more
that 5 to
information.
10 options, because if we go from 15 down to 5, we might be like, oh, that's not high enough. Like, I'd like to have somewhere to see 2 different ones to again, so we don't keep going back and forth. I think that would be a better discussion piece.
Yeah, more supplemental information. Council Wheel.
Yeah, I do have a problem with taking out Selkirk Hill. I think we know that there's going to be a lot of development happening up there. There's a lot of use up there because of Keith Park. We're constantly getting, that was a big issue with that development and going up there. I'm okay with the sewage treatment plant lowering that down, but Selkirk Hill, I think we need to keep that one in there.
I'm seeing heads nodding around the room. So then it's basically option 2 with a phased approach to sewage treatment plant and removing Selkirk Hill.
The option 2A was just basically project deferment, and then there was 2 options shown there. So either the sewage treatment plant, Selkirk Hill, which probably, frankly, wouldn't have been enough to have a meaningful reduction that council is seeking. So we can probably see some reductions with adjustments to the sewage treatment plant.
Okay. So it's kind of a case where, is this at a point where, well, we can actually live with the direction that Mr. Armstrong has encapsulated and paraphrased? I'll go to Councillor Hambrook.
I think I see a motion on the screen that magically appeared. I would move that motion and make sure Selkirk Hill stays in.
Okay, so I've got a mover of the motion that's on the screen. I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor Cooper seconding that. Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Hambrook? I'm amazed how you were able to get that on the screen.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Seville.
Yeah, thank you.
Does that provide clarity to staff?
I suppose I would just want to discuss with Urban, do you think that we should circle back to council with a brief memo with what these rate adjustments would look like before going to background report and bylaw drafting? Or how would you suggest we approach this? Come back for first and second reading, or just a quick check-in before bylaw drafting?
So look to Sarah or Jen.
Through your worship, if council were to choose a different square meter rate outside of what is current, like outside of the units now, that would result in greater changes to potential bylaw due to the definitions that are required to facilitate it, whereas the per unit, if that wasn't up for discussion, then it would be a simple change just to the rate schedule itself. So I would probably say a memo to check in with the scenarios to confirm. And I'll open that up to Sarah's perspective as well.
Yeah, Jenna, you're correct because usually if a council wants to go through the first and second reading with the DCC bylaw, like the bylaw should be drafted for the proposed scenario. Because after that, it needs to be submitted to the ministry for a preliminary review. And normally, like the bylaw and the background report is part of the submission. So if a council wants to consider like these two scenario, like specifically the one related to the square meter rate, it will be maybe best if these scenarios, both scenarios, are considered at council, and council decide at that point if they want to proceed with a bylaw. They consider the DCC charge per unit rate or per square meter rate, because the bylaw will look quite differently depending on the preferred option the council wants to proceed with.
Thank you for that. And at this point in time, I'm taking away that the memo should include both with the changes in the sewage treatment plant and some options there, as well as the residential per square meter option available. So with that, there would be no first and second reading at this point in time, if I have a correct takeaway from this, and then we'll have that information at the next council meeting or somewhere down the road. And then council can get first, second reading on the road.
Correct. Yeah, we'll target that in probably a month from now to have that memo back at the council table.
Okay, thank you. So the motion speaks to that. Anybody else speaking to the motion that's up on the screen? In the absence of anybody speaking to it, I'll ask the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And again, thank you to staff and the contractor for the work on this. It's difficult for everyone, and especially difficult for council, wanting to ensure that we have a long-term plan to be able to address the infrastructure, but also wanting to ensure that we're not killing the development community, and we have growth continue on the road, down the road. And I'll take Councilor Routley's approach and knock on wood, and there's increased growth to be able to address this and be able to address some of those rates. Is there anything else staff need on the DCCs? Mr. Armstrong?
No, not at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Urban.
Yes, thank you very much, Sarah and Jen.
Thank you.
So with that, we move on to the Recreation Department, and we have as soon as I report from Mr. Petrovics, I believe it's a staff report. Just got to get the computer to catch up with me. With regards to the Recplex gym divider curtains replacement, Mr. Petrovic.
Actually, Your Worship, we're going to start with the Whitetooth Legacy Park.
Oh,
and,
my apologies.
Our Rackets Courts landscaping contract. If you're
My
okay with that.
apologies.
No worries. It's getting to that time. Back in December of 2025, staff submitted an application to the Columbia Basin Trust Climate Adaptive Spaces program. And in the middle of late of January, we were awarded with a successful application for landscaping upgrades at Keith King Memorial Park, specifically landscaping around our new racket court facility that we're getting close to wrapping up construction on. The grant was valued at $100,000, and staff developed a request for proposal package that was posted online, seeking landscaping contractors to provide us with some proposals to the project grant-based budget. We received one application or one submission from Set in Stone Landscaping that was within our budget, and we are looking for a motion to move forward to draft a contract with Set in Stone and get this work underway before we open our courts in July. I'll welcome any questions.
Thank you for that, council. Any clarification needed prior to getting a motion on the floor? If not, I'm looking for a mover. Councilor Routley.
Thank you, Worship. Happy to move the recommendation that council proceed with directing staff to award the landscaping contract to Set in Stone.
Thank you for that. Looking for a seconder. Councilor Guile. Any comments? All those in favor? What's that mean? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll get on to the Recplex curtain replacement. My apologies.
No
Mr.
worries.
Petrick?
Thank you, Your Worship. As part of your proposed 2026, sorry, just getting my own report in front of me here.
Thank you.
Here we go. So as part of your draft financial plan 2026 to 2030, there was funding included to replace the existing curtain in the Mount 7 Recplex. Back a couple of years ago when we were talking about larger scale vision for the Recplex, doing more of a center roll divide curtain was definitely deemed the best option in terms of the way it functions, will improve the way multiple sports could operate in the facility at the same time. And we developed a package request for proposal that was posted up on our website, and we received one bid from Centaur Products to install one of these new curtains into the building. As a friendly reminder to council, Centaur was also the company that was at the helm of replacing our gym floor in the facility as well. They've come in with a curtain replacement that is on budget, and we're currently just seeking out a local electrician that can look after hooking the motors up on this and making it go up and down for us. So I'll welcome any questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions prior to getting the resolution? Councilor Manuel?
Yes, thank you. I was actually going to make the resolution for option one because I think it's, I believe in the value, and I know Mr. Petrovic has been hoping for one a long time, and it seems to be, the price seems reasonable and etc. So yeah, I'd like to make the resolution.
Okay, I got a mover looking for a seconder. Councilor Routley, second in the motions. Anybody speaking to the motion? Councilor Cooper?
Well, I had a question. I just wanted to know for the price, because there's 3 different picture options. And I liked the Brookfield YMCA option because it looked more transparent through. I was a little concerned about the Saskatoon one that's you can't see through. Just if there's kids on one side, I think for visibility, it would be nicer to have kind of that screen that you could see through viewable for both sides. So I wasn't sure which option this cost was for 1, 2, or 3 of those pictures.
It's to Petrovic.
Yeah, the colors within and the angle within those pictures are a little bit misleading, but kind of the standard for any of these curtains is the upper half of the curtain is more of a mesh that allows for proper airflow and such within your facility. Then we don't have to look at HVAC upgrades or anything along those lines. The bottom portion, generally the top 10 to 12 feet, is usually a solid color, and the bottom of the curtain actually has a larger bar on the bottom so that you don't have balls and such going through, so it acts as an actual wall. And they're designed in that way so that there isn't distraction going on between multiple sports happening on one side. So if we had volleyball, more of a competitive volleyball game going on one side, and potentially a kids basketball program or a multi-sport program on the other side, that participants wouldn't actually be getting distracted with the activities going on. Happy to follow up with the contractor on the idea of doing mesh to the bottom, but it would definitely be against kind of the common practice of how these curtains are installed.
No, that's okay. I appreciate understanding it because I didn't. When I was looking, I was like, oh, I like the mesh that you can see through, but I get it for airflow and I get it. So I do then like Prince Albert's choice, the second one better. Look how easy I swayed.
Any other questions with regards to the report and the information? I have a question with regards to the electrical work.
Yep.
We have a budget of $40,000, 36 of it going to the actual divider installation, I'm assuming. Do we have a sense of what the costs are for the electrical?
I'm anticipating that the remaining portion of the budget will be used up in the process of installing that electrical. I'm going to be having a tour this week. I kind of was hopeful to get the main part of the project award just because of the lead times associated with ordering and such. But I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to direct toward this, hooking this up to the tune of $3,000, basically using up our remaining budget for this project.
Okay. And that was my thoughts as far as, was the residual adequate to address the electrical? Yeah. Like to hear that. Okay, thank you. We have a motion duly seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you. Your local user groups will be quite excited when this new curtain's in place.
And the next item is another staff report from Mr. Petrovic with regards to Golden Municipal Aquatic Services facility options. Mr. Petrovic.
So the corporate services department took a little bit of a theme and started with the easygoing reports and managed to get into the ones that are a little bit more complex for recreation this evening. This report is in front of you tonight as staff are looking to form a council select committee to conduct our final critiquing and review of the consultants that have expressed interest in the pool project, basically in our aquatic study project. Staff posted an expression of interest project posting back in January for the project, and we received some great interest from, I believe, 11 different firms that were interested in bidding and becoming involved with the project. Staff have reviewed and critiqued those down to a final 3. And we're now looking to form a council select committee to help with the final strokes and rating of our top 3 consultants that staff have come down to. A large part of the staff motivation to go through the forming of a council select committee with this is that one, our funding does come from economic opportunity dollars, so there is a shared component with the CSRD on this project, and 2, it's pretty inevitable that the result of any of the options of this study will require further conversation and dialogue with the CSRD in terms of funding and potential referendums and the mechanisms of how we're going to move any of the options out of this project forward. So with that, we worked with corporate services and developed a quick terms of reference for a council select committee. Members of the committee involve staff from the regional district, our director of operations, our aquatics lead, myself, and then we are also at a political level looking to have the mayor and the area director involved on this committee to basically take in 3 online presentations, critique and rate those so that we have a clear process in terms of how we move forward with awarding a contract. With that, I'll welcome any questions, and I might be leaning into corporate services if it's more on the technical side of setting up this committee.
Thank you. That just a quick side question. I'm assuming that the report and the information has been shared with the electoral area director to this point in time.
Yes, yeah, the area director is very well aware that this report. I might have forgotten to send the actual report. However, in the background, staff have actually been lining up meetings for the proposals, and she's accepted all of them. So she's well aware of the process that we're undertaking.
Thank you very much. Okay, and Mr. Dinagar has just confirmed that he has spoken with the electoral area director directly, not face to face, but by telephone. Thank you. Okay, council, any clarifications needed? So then I'm looking to council for direction here. Council Rutley.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to move the recommendation that we proceed with establishing the select committee and approve the terms of reference, as well as appointing the mayor and whoever he delegates as an alternate to the select committee.
Looking for a seconder. Council Guerrero second that, and I'll be so bold as to say that I'd look to as the designate, I'd look to the alternate that we had with the previous CSRD project, just for some continuity. I believe that was Councilor Manuel. Yeah.
If not, I was going to volunteer.
So that would be the intent here. So we got a motion on the floor. Do we get a second? Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other comments? If not, oh, Councilor Rutley, my apologies.
Everyone take up the opportunity. I just hands go up to staff on the approach. Select committees, particularly for the soft services and elective services like recreation, makes great sense to me. And so look forward to the findings of the select committee.
Absolutely, and I'd echo that, and the power of a select committee is it can have bookends too, which is extremely powerful. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Excuse me, opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we move on to bylaws. And we have a staff report again from Mr. Petrix. As we go deeper into the night, they get heavier in subject matter.
Well, sorry, Your Worship, I'll start this one with a bit of a humorous comment in the fact that today schedules, specifically B, C, and D, all very quickly became swear words for me as I was reviewing the final strokes of this report. So yes, thank you for council for some of the comments that came from this bylaw, and we did catch a pretty major error in that the comparisons that the spreadsheet that we were using, we used the Schedule B rates from our previous bylaw, which in turn were actually our rates from 2024, and it threw everything out of whack. So if council is willing to accept kind of the updated bylaw that I scrambled to throw together at the last second for you, just so we can have a meaningful conversation tonight, it would be greatly appreciated. If I get some nods on that, I'll get into introducing the actual
Absolutely,
report.
thank you for that.
Perfect. So your rates and fees bylaw is definitely a key part of everything we do in recreation.
Absolutely.
The rates and fees document
apologies.
Oh, no worries. The rates and fees document itself includes over 170 rates, and that's just when we look at our rates for drop-in based programs and what we charge on a typical year. On top of that, we also for the last for quite a few years, I've been presenting this document as a three-year bylaw in terms of time. So that's where the hiccup happened with this, and the fact that your Schedule A rates are generally your drop-in based programs. We leave those rates stagnant. We don't like to change those every single year because just the time and administration within our software is just a massive pain. And as well, it just allows us to advertise and have that kind of consistency with how we operate. Our rental rates are a little bit different in that we always have contracts with our user groups that change on an annual basis. So the ability for us to provide annual increases on our rates is very feasible and manageable within our sales systems and billing and such. So that's kind of the historic pattern that we've taken with introducing your rates and fees bylaws to council. Of course, our existing document expires at the end of April, and as we flip into aquatics and sports fields mode, we do need to have some new rates developed for our user groups. The spirit and intent to this report is now backed up with the new document that I've given you. We will be doing some edits on the way it appears. However, I did double check kind of all the rates within the schedules B plus through this afternoon. Within your Schedule A, what we've done is we're looking at a 12% increase for all the rates within the schedule, with some additional increases that are noted beyond just the Schedule A rates itself. And that includes a 50% increase to all of our social programs. So that includes programs like winter walking, parent and taught play, moving that up to $3. So sometimes these percentage increases will look much scarier than what they are from an actual dollar amount. So I'm happy to provide clarity on that as we work through this report. And then we also did some adjustments with our Ready, Set, Guard package fees, and basically simplified the registration process. And of course, this is the way that we are recruiting our new staff at the pool. Staff are very keen to make sure that we keep a dollar rate involved there, so we have a level of commitment for the people that are signing up for these programs. We discussed with our finance department the merits of moving to a free-based model, but from the recreation department standpoint, we weren't keen on that because people will just sign up and then not show up if there's no financial accountability to that. So, but we did kind of simplify that rate. There's a couple different ways we can unpack this. I'm happy to get into specific questions that might come up from Schedule A. And I'm also prepared to kind of read out my responses to the email that landed in my inbox earlier today as well. So I'll turn it over to council's wishes on how we continue with this. If that works for council, yep.
Counselor Guil, I'll go that way.
Okay, I just have a question. You're saying that the certification courses, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so what we've done within Schedule A is we still have rack rates for our certification courses, and we've increased those substantially. As we actually have other municipalities that are signing up to come and take National Lifeguard and the various courses that our aquatics lead is running.
But when you're running these courses, the staff, like the 21 part-time
So
staff that
so
are getting them.
So technically the way that it works is that when we actually have these future staff taking courses, they're not on payroll, they're not actually hired. The way that we run our Ready Set Card program is that we actually have applicants apply. We do a job interview to give the applicants the ability to sit in an interview based position, and then between myself and our aquatics lead, our recreation coordinator, we accept them into the program and then offer them this $500 rate to take all three of the classes and programs. If they pass all three of those courses, then they're eligible for 100% refund once they are hired to work with us.
So it's more of a incentivized and just trying to show it in the books. But what is the cost related to give those courses?
Sorry, the cost
to give those courses?
The rack rates is kind of a good reflection in terms of what we actually charge. So within your rates and fees, your National Lifeguard $500 course recertification, the National Lifeguard is a $500 course, and then we also have the swim instructor course at $500 in there. We did do research with about 15 other municipalities to kind of bring our rates in line, and those rates are in line. But like many other municipalities, there's countless incentives now that are geared towards training and recruiting staff.
I'm just kind of confused. So it's town staff giving the courses, or you're bringing in people to give the courses?
A combination of our goal that we've been working towards for many years is to have this 100% led by town staff.
But so what is the cost per hire when you're giving these courses away for free if you hire the people?
So there's lots of different ways we can calculate that. When we look at, if we take the rack rates, and we're looking at courses that would be upwards of $2,000 total. If you calculated the rack rates that are being charged in other municipalities, based on the quick math within our rates, we're looking at $1,250 of courses that we would ultimately be offering to guards for free.
Wow, and that's for 21 staff.
Yep. And that really in many municipalities has become the norm. And that is why about 7-8 years ago, we really started to push to make sure that we had our own in-house trainer within our team, as a lot of municipalities are paying, full pop travel, contractor rates and everything to bring in these certified instructors. The process of actually getting certified to be able to teach these courses for your National Lifeguard and swim instructor is actually a multi-year process, as you have to do the baseline courses, do practicum teaches, do co-teaches. So that's why it's hard for me to say, this year we have a contractor supporting our recreation coordinator with the final steps of getting that certification to do swim instructor certifications. So it's, again, many municipalities have different types of programs in terms of how they execute this. For us, we've had this program in its kind of fashion rolling for at least 6 seasons, and had great results with that constant stream of new guards joining our team. And the beauty of having our own staff administering that is they're also interviewing them and getting to know their work ethics and everything throughout the course of the process as well.
Any follow-up?
Is this cost brought into the operations cost at the end of the year, so we know like what it costs to bring on new staff?
To be able to isolate it?
The numbers could be calculated. We don't have a separate line item for this within our budget. And a lot of times the costs are somewhat split in terms of some of our Pro D costs that are associated with our aquatics coordinator obtaining these courses right now. And then the other costs are kind of layered in because we do have members of public that are taking these courses at full rack rate as well. That be it, the majority of the proponents in these classes are people that are going through the Ready Set Guard program to become future guards.
So, Mr. Petrovic, can you speak to the number of hours that each one of these 21 staff might be working during a season? And I'm trying to translate that investment into the staff.
I would say
Kind
for
of
clarity, it's not 21 people in the guard program. That's the staff. Like
that's total staff.
There's, what is there, 8 people a year for the guard program. So not all 21 staff taking. Just for clarity, it's like 8. Or Mr. Patrick said.
Yeah, there's further challenges with these courses because we need to have minimum number of participants in the courses in order to run them. We generally need 4 to 5 people signed up in order to even host a course. So the amount of municipalities that try to run these opportunities and then cancel because they're one person short is huge. And so with this, we do get our numbers. Last year, we brought on 7 new hires that went through this program. And this year, we're anticipating probably about another 5 that would be taking and going through this program. We are looking at trying to phase this as doing components of this every second year. However, once hired, generally by the time they're finished going through the process, it's generally mid-July. So they come on for minimal hours. Then they're back the next season for more hours. And as they grow, so what we're finding in our trends with aquatic staff right now, if we get 4 to 5 seasons out of that, that's a huge win for us. And each of those staff members always grow in terms of their levels of responsibility and what they lead at the pool for us. So being a seasonal based facility and based on the fact that we're recruiting staff, well, the Ready Set Guard program, we're bringing kids in as young as 14, 15 years old. We can put them on deck when they're 15. And we generally get them as they go through their university pursuits and then we kind of start the cycle again.
Thank you for that. I've got a speakers list. Councilor Cooper, supplemental.
No, I was just going to say for clear, so it wasn't the 21 because I thought it is a lower number of people going through each year.
Thank you, Councilor Watley.
Thank you. I was gonna just say, the opportunity cost of not collecting, $12.50 a head is certainly maybe an overinflation of total costs. And what I'm hearing is that we have a fantastic package available for staff attraction, retention, and development of young people in our community for jobs that are, pretty decent paying throughout the university life. So that's always helpful and certainly applicable skills outside of that with CP Rail, with CPR and maybe they apply it there, and those other their skills. So I appreciate the approach for administrative ease. I had another question, but I had lobbed the one question around the removal of one other fee within Schedule A, and maybe I'll just ask for the record for folks' benefit around the removal of kind of special event shower use within the other fees.
Yeah. To your comment, Councillor Routley, around the work that happens out of the guards and what we see in our community right now, we have within the community, we have a handful of people that work in local accounting firms. We have a lawyer. We have about 4 teachers, and other people that work in various different administrative capacities within the community that have all worked at the pool underneath my time with the community. So there is, like, starting an alumni has always been something I've considered, but it's pretty impressive when we look at the staff that go through the program and how they do end up, setting their own roots within the community and contributing back in that fashion. Sorry, total digress. When we shifting to your question, Councillor Routley, around no longer offering a specific shower fee, we made the decision kind of at an operational level to remove that fee, as we do not want the facility, especially in May and June, to be able to have people come in to shower at any given time, specifically some of the sensitivities when we're hosting school groups. And we also have had numerous problems with people who are traveling through the community and pay to have a shower, and then we find them in the pool and we have to kick them out. So, so from simplicity standpoint, our drop-in rates are very reasonable. If you want a shower, go for a swim as well, is our approach.
And for clarity, there are other providers of showers within the community.
Yes, there are, and our staff are trained on how to direct them appropriately, and that's now somebody else's problem rather than a member of council.
Thank you. I got Councilor Manuel.
Going back to what we were discussing a couple minutes ago, I'm guessing that you've developed programs and this kind of thing because it's a perennial issue with getting lifeguards in the past. And some communities have a real problem. They may not be able to open because you don't have the lifeguards. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's my involvement with the British Columbia Parks and Recreation Association has me sitting on side committees that have been leveraging the federal government for funding to try and help with this type of stuff, along as the provincial government as well. Not only if we don't have guards, not only are we not able to open just for public swims, but also keep in mind that the component of swim lesson instruction is huge. And within your public pools, that education component is big. And if we don't have swim lesson instructors for our swim lessons, that cuts out one of our biggest revenue generating opportunities, but as well that greater good to the community and teaching the public how to swim and be safe around water. So that social lens of the work that as a sector we've had to pivot with lifeguard training. This is not just a Golden problem. We've definitely been one of the leaders in terms of how we've positioned this program and tried to be ahead of the curve because we are a seasonal facility.
So with that, unless there's someone speaking contrary, I'm gonna take everyone as a head nod in favor of Schedule A as laid out. Unless I hear otherwise, and then we'll move on to Schedule B.
Perfect. Thank you, Your Worship. So for your Schedule B increases, what we've done, so for clarity, what we do is Schedule B will be your rates for 2026 into 2027, and Schedule C, Schedule D will be the following years. What we've looked at for facilities like the Golden Arena is we've applied a 5 to 8% increase for all of those rental rates. Traditionally, what we do is a little bit higher increase on the youth rates rather than the adult rates, just so that the rates are catching up, and not, if we applied a larger percentage increase, then we'd start having these larger gaps. So we made that adjustment within the arena. We also took the same approach at with the pool rental rates. We're still in the process of catching up with our lane rental rates from many years ago when our entire pool was rented for the same rate as a lane. This was before my time. We've been working on catching that up over many years. But we did add some bigger increases and a heftier increase to our single lane rentals. Part of the rationale on that 20% increase was also we just do not have the capacity at the facility to be renting out single lanes in configuration with our existing programming. So we put a bigger increase on there. Over at the Recplex, 5 to 8% increase as well. And of course, some of the bigger increases that were noted on the rates, and this was identified in the email as well, which I'm pulling up right now, is that at the Recplex, we did come in with a much more aggressive rental rate for floor cover related events, because we do need to have 3 staff in the building to put that floor cover down and at least 3 to 4 people on shift for a couple hours to pull and clean and bring that up. So we're looking at recovering our operating costs a little bit more effectively on there. Still have grounds to go if we wanted to go to a full cost recovery on that. We also removed the half gym floor cover rate, as it was just not practical, and it takes pretty much the same amount of labor to put down half a floor cover as opposed to all of floor cover based on shift times we have to provide and such as well. So those are your larger increases in your schedules B. And then we took a simple approach for C and D with just a blanket 5% increase for both of those years. I'll welcome any questions on.
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna ask Councilor Cooper to take the chair, and I'm just gonna remove myself for a couple minutes, and
That's a lot of
she was first on the list, so this puts her last on the list. Thank you, Councilor Cooper.
My question is around pickleball and our new pickleball facility, like up at the Rexplex, because I noticed at Keith King, we have rates for ball diamonds, we have rates for soccer. Currently, when pickleball is happening at the Rexplex, there's fees involved. When we were at the all users forum in the springtime, a month ago, whenever that was, the association had talked about putting on tournaments. So wondering, why is there no fees included for pickleball? And if it's not at this stage this year, should it be included to C and D? I feel that renting a pickleball court should be the same cost as the ball and soccer and what they would be paying kind of at the Rexplex.
Yes, absolutely. And this is one of the ideas that's kind of on that council strategic initiative is alternate ways of generating revenue. Our conversations with the pickleball club thus far, and also with the timing of getting our project opened, we wanted to get the park open this year, see how the use goes. If there's any requests for a tournament of such this year, we'd be looking at using our TLO process to make that happen. We want to do some more research on this, collect the highs and lows of what's happening in other communities with rented courts, because there is a little bit more of an administrative component that will likely come up compared to a soccer or ball field with administering this or posting times and such. So yeah, the goal is to do some investigation and some collaboration with the club on this, bring back a report probably in the fall, early next year. And then we would just look to amend the bylaw and add these rates. However, at this point in time, looking at staff capacity and focusing on getting that project done, we just did not have the time to really bring forward some meaningful rates into rates that we wouldn't intend to apply until 2027.
Okay. Yeah, because it just seemed like it was missing, and that was my concern. I was like, because if you're currently renting a gym space, we could just even apply the same rates for the gym for the outdoor. It's a new facility. I'd like to see us equip money so we can also maintain it, and we don't end up with a facility that we don't have funds to keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's being a new product, being a new space, and also dealing with some of the different comments we've had from different community members over tennis courts and everything else. We just want to get this park space open first. However, if council is okay with me saying this is absolutely on our radar to bring back, that's the direction we'd like to go at this point in time.
Yep. Thank you. There you go. Perfect.
Thank you, Councilor Cooper. Who else is on the list here?
There's Councilor Guil and then Councilor Manuel.
Thank you. Councilor Guil.
I just have a question with regards to the cleaning charges in Scheduled C. That you actually went down from what you had in 2024. It was 116.
Sorry, I'm just flipping to it. Obviously, the intent would be to be aligned with that high level direction, and that any of the cleaning fees would have that range within in our first round in that 5 to 8%, and then a 5.5 moving forward. So if that's an error that was caught, then we will gladly change that as we bring this back for readings.
Yeah, needs to go up.
Comes down to that 170 rate factor of going through this document.
Thanks for catching that, Councilor Guil. Councilor Rodley.
Thank you. No, certainly appreciative of the work and you know, having built out my own little spreadsheet for it. It was daunting. So appreciate the time and energy spent. Great to see, you know, a bit of a catch up and reflection of the actual labor around particularly the floor covering for the Recplex. You know, it's a great asset to be able to use that space for special events, but certainly to see a commensurate return. Ultimately, taxpayer is still supplementing in the end, but it is nonetheless great to see that those portions are getting caught up, and yeah, an interesting, or certainly interested in well, I suppose it won't be this term of council, but certainly agree with the direction around bringing forward after a bit of review around what the rates might best look like for racket sports. It is interesting how the fewer people on the field, the more administratively cumbersome it can be. people in large groups maybe get along a bit better. Better team sport, I suppose, is the rationale. Besides the little bits and bobs, the 5% on the cleaning fee and stuff like that, all the other rates, to my mind, seem appropriate, and the adjustments for say the concession rate, obviously with the intent to get a longer term contract in place. It'd be great to see that facility in use.
Thank you. Any other comments? So I'll take this opportunity. I'm supportive of the rates as set out here. Thinking about the reflex floor and that's a major asset, and that's the direction that council had set, and believe that in many instances when the facility is used, it's generally a larger community event, and I think that speaks to some of the value. Yes, I'd like to get to that point where it's cost recovery, but in the interim, I think that's a good way to go. We need to protect that asset. I'm supportive of things as set forward. Looking forward to reviewing the tape on the conversation around pickleball. I didn't realize I would.
I know you thought I was going to.
Okay, any other comments from council?
Just one to make clear as well too. I didn't bring this up in my verbal, but we are proposing a 100% increase for our field and ball rental rates. We have spoken. This has actually been motivated by the Soccer Association. Sorry, I got this comment at the last meeting that I had to leave town on. So we also have had a meeting with the Hardball Association over the 100% increase on rates, and they're supportive of that with a couple maintenance loose ends that I'm going to be discussing with our operations team. We've reached out at a high level to the adult league yet and not received feedback. But we are in the process of reaching out to that group to inform them that if this is the direction we're going, to get some feedback before this goes.
You will get some feedback with this direction we're going.
I'm trying to be kind with my words because I know we will get feedback. It really, staff is in a bit of an awkward spot because it doesn't matter which direction we go with rates, we will get some feedback. So I'll leave that with council to kind of weigh in on.
Any comments, Councilor Cooper? Not to put you on the spot, but
No, I like I asked in before when it was kind of coming up and going, if the group's new, and I've reached out and talked to them, and they are aware that these rates will be increasing and have adjusted rates in accordance. So no,
and there'd be commensurate expectations associated with that.
No, yeah, and there was work done on, I mean, it's not included, it's a different rate for the concession, but there was work done on the concession and there has been improvements made. So the expectation is just as long as the grass is cut and the fields are raked, then it's understandable.
To an appropriate standard.
To a standard that now it has reached.
Thank you for that. And then sorry to put you on the spot, Councilor Routley.
Thank you. Just procedurally, just seeking clarity. So if council directs, we're happy with the revised schedules and then any other obvious kind of clerical points raised around either the cleaning fee or I think it's section 4.5 in the bylaw, just a missing line there. We're fine to proceed with first, second, and third there, or do we need to just do first and second with amendments?
Ms. Seville?
It would just be first and second reading as amended.
Okay.
I'm happy to move that.
First, second as amended. Looking for second, Councilor Guillo seconding that. Anything else? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you, and thank you for working through my hiccup with me here.
Thank you for your work on that. So with that, so 11B would be then the council give first and second reading. Notice first, second, and third reading for bylaw number 1508, 2026, Town of Golden 2025 reserve transfers. In 2025 reserve transfers. Who said that? Who said that?
Carolyn, there's something with only your connection when you unmute.
Carolyn, there's something with only your connection when you unmute. We get.
So a strategy to be able to address that.
So Carolyn, while you're talking, we will have to be muted and vice versa. Yeah. So we will mute on our end while you present, and then we'll just have to go back and forth.
All right. Well, I'll start talking and assume that you can hear me. I see a nod. I'm not too sure why it would have been different for my connection, but I will do my best here. We've got reserves bylaw for consideration annually. We provide this as a result of changes to the regular financial plan. So the financial plan bylaw is adopted annually in May, and contains specific uses and sources of funding, as well as including approved transfers to and from the reserves. However, throughout the year, there is usually changes to projects, contributions, and funds and reserves that council may choose to amend from time to time. So the schedule and the bylaw attached is a listing of all of those changes. And to be brief, I suppose I can just welcome any questions that you may have. The ones noted as amendments are, are ones that have changed as a result of council direction. There is one emergency capital amendment for a pool capital expenditure from the Building and Facilities Reserve. And otherwise, I will just welcome questions about any of those regularly occurring reserve transfers.
Thank you for that, Ms. Brown. Council, any questions for Ms. Brown? Seeing no questions around the table, we have a recommendation. Moved by Councilor Routley, seconded by Councilor Manuel. The council give first, second, and third reading to bylaw 1508. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. We won't use this as a strategy for future financial decisions. Okay, with that, we now go on to item 12, which is new business. Just bring it up here. And Ms. Brown, we'll turn it over to you with regards to the 2026-2030 5-year financial plan bylaw. Ms. Brown?
Thank you very much. I'll assume again that you can hear me. So before you is the bylaw 1513 2026 Town of Golden 5-year financial plan. It includes council's multiple deliberations on the numerous budgets that have gone into the 2026 to 2030 financial plan. The bylaw also indicates what proportions of revenue are coming from various funding sources, and also estimates the distribution of property taxes amongst the property classes. And finally, it lays out the use of permissive tax exemptions and the limit therefore, which is around $105,000 for 2026. So I do welcome any questions you may have. I've integrated as much as I was aware of at this point in time. There will be a few adjustments as a result of today's meeting that will be included into reading 2. However, most of the items have been included in this financial plan bylaw. So I will close out and mute myself so that you can ask any questions that you have.
So council again recognizes this is first reading. Any questions from Ms. Brown relative to the 5-year financial plan? Seeing none, looking for someone to make the motion, the recommendation. Councilor Guio. Councilor Routley seconded that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, and thanks for your endurance for the one item. Appreciated. Ms. Brown. And with that, we go to question period. Opportunity for those in the gallery to ask questions of any of the subject matter that council dealt with tonight. We're going to go to the digital gallery first. Anybody attending virtually have any questions with regards to matters dealt with tonight? Going once, asking a second time, asking a third and final time. With that, I'm looking for a motion to recess to a closed meeting. Moved by Councilor Routley, second by Councilor Manuel. And we're recessing to closed meeting pursuant to section 91C of the community charter for council to deal with matters relating to the following: labor relations. So all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. And for those councilors that are online, they'll have to sign out and sign back into the closed. Thank you for that. Okay, council has just come from the closed meeting. It's a late hour and council is now looking for motion to reconvene the open meeting. Moved by Councilor Routley, second by Councilor Guio. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. There are no reports from the closed meeting. So next I'm looking for a motion for adjournment, and we've got Councilor Manuel moving that, Councilor Routley second that. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.